everybody, David here from Team Ultra Instinct, and I'm here with Joe and Jake today. Joe's a good friend of mine, and Jake is also a Team Ultra Instinct YouTube channel member. And we are bringing you a ban list discussion and meta discussion today. So we're kind of just going to start with the ban list and then lead into the meta discussion. So we're going to just dive right into the ban list discussion and start with all the leaders and the one card that got hit. So Rip Joe's Gogeta deck. Pouring out for the homie.
Oh,
Finally, thank God.
hey, pay your respects, guys. Come on. It was fun while it
I'm
lasted.
sorry.
uh, I gotta give the respect because at least he pays due to his favorite character, Gogeta. So, um, but I'm very happy to see these two leaders gone. For the game design sake, it was just meta defining for red, and nothing was really better than it. You can get the roguish decks, but it was rough for red.
Gogeta and Sin was it was long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially as a Gogeta player, the fact that you can draw 9 to 10 cards on turn 2 if you have the unison was just absolutely absurd. Like, you were never in a bad spot unless you were up against blue. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think the way they handled it was the right way to go about it by hitting those leaders.
I agree.
Just no matter what, the way I was looking at it, people were trying to take the King Piccolo approach, and what I mean by that is, set 12 King Piccolo. They never hit the leader. They just kept slowly hitting cards in the deck, and it kept going and going and going until it was unplayable. And that's kind of how people were trying to treat it, and I just felt like you just get to the source of the problem. The leaders are the problem for those decks, and yeah, I think they did it
And you
right
had to
this
bring up
time.
King Piccolo again, too? Come on, that one still hurts.
that
I mean,
one was like close to being fair, but it was just a lot of free plays.
no,
Yeah.
I'm happy that those two leaders are gone, and I'm 50-50 about Gamma getting hit. I mean, I understand why they did it, but like, I think because I like have fair matchups against it, it's just like, oh great, all right, there goes like
Oh,
a
no.
easy matchup for me.
Oh, sir. No. Gamma can go in the back alley and die. I absolutely hated that leader. The fact that you could untap 3, well, not even untap 3, you pick up 3 energy and put it down was just absolutely absurd. It was into the best, well, I guess it was the best color combination for that deck in blue green, giving you access to 4 different floodgates by the time set 20 came around. The deck was just absolutely absurd.
Don't
And
forget
you
that
were
it
never
also had what, four ignore energy exhaust cards or whatever.
eighteen,
Yeah,
21. What were the
yeah,
other ones?
it had a lot.
18, 21, 17, and 18. So I had three. Still, it was a lot.
And the biggest problem I had with it was, and this also falls in line with other untapped leaders, is the fact that you were never punished for tapping out.
Hmm.
Like, as a red play, like I come from red, green, and black specifically, where if I'm playing a boss monster and I'm forced to tap out to play that boss monster, I better be killing you that turn. Otherwise, I am just getting destroyed on the clapback. Where Gamma can just safely tap forward, play their cell, wipe your board, punish you for countering, 30k double strike dual attack, and then just go, okay, cool, untap 3.
Yeah.
Like, the deck was just absurd.
So let me get a few talking points on it. So a lot of the issues with it, I saw some solutions kind of going around there. One of them pitched the idea of picking up two and putting down two instead, which I thought, okay, it's a little bit more fair. Two is a lot more fair than three. Three always ends up being a lot more game breaking. But I think some of the problems this had is you had a second hand at all times. Literally all your stuff and your energy, you could either put it back to hand at end of turn and have potential usage later, or you're literally playing guys out of the energy, which were subsequently replacing themselves because of the leader. So I think it's just one of those things where they overtuned blue androids too much. Because like initially, this deck was never actually an issue. Like it was good out of the gates. Like in set 17, set 18, that boost with the Android 18 card. It wasn't
Mhm.
actually that big of a
Mm-hmm.
problem. It was just once they got into set 20, when it got the secret rare and a couple other toys to play with, it pushed it over the edge.
All those
Well,
floodgates.
yeah, agreed.
Oh, the
I mean,
promo too, yeah.
I'd even argue around set 19 was when the deck started to really take off because you gave it not only the Gohan Floodgate, as Jake just brought up, but also the Gohan Secret Rare, where they could just pay 2, and put everything back, which is
Yeah.
just absurd. Gohan is a great secret rare, but the fact you give a super defensive deck something like that, come on, people.
Yeah, even the Gohan SGR, now that I'm thinking about it, because you still can technically, well,
That was
actually, you
huge.
could use it in the deck because it's an 8 cost. Now that I'm thinking
Mhm.
about it, you had it fully live in the deck. So,
Hmm.
I know not everyone
Mhm.
ran it main board, but it was a sideboard card for a lot of people for either the early removal or the potential big body removal. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it just had so many tools, and I understand the ban was probably the best route for it. Um, but I think the potential pick up two and put down two could have been a good fix, but I understand they're trying to avoid functional erratas.
Yeah, and it's also a lot more helpful to even newer players because now, unlike what Bandai was doing in the past, where they were just trying to make everything still playable and give everything a million different erratas, it was unless you were a seasoned player, you really didn't know the erratas. I mean, take Vegex for
Mhm.
example. It, how many cards was that deck responsible for banning and/or slapping an errata on? So they should have just banned the leader. I get it was a starter deck card, but
Yeah,
you're making it more difficult with all these erratas for newer players. Just get the card out of the game, and then you could fix it later if you want to.
right. Reboot it or whatever, like they tried to do with Mecha Frieza. Then it just
Yeah, and
got
of
banned
course, Mecha
anyway.
Frieza got hit again.
Arguably an even stronger version of its past self.
Yeah, let's just add the part to make it tap something as well, because that's fair.
Oh yeah, totally.
And speaking about Mecha Frieza, the color yellow, total shock that nothing even got touched.
I'm
I,
That
I'm like
oh,
50-50 on it because like they could have hit something, but at the same time I don't know what you hit because like I really don't
what?
think Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte is an issue, but I think the combination of having both Mecha Frieza and Vegito is an issue in itself. But like
A
on
lot.
their own, they're not an issue, so it's weird. It's really weird.
I'd argue the only card you would probably have to hit in yellow, only because it will only get better with time, is the Golden Frieza leader from set one, just because it gives yellow something that it should not be able to do, and that's untap power. So the fact again that it goes back to what Gamma, the whole Gamma argument, where you're tapping out, and then all you're doing is you're activating your leader skill, and you're untapping, and you're not being punished for tapping out. And the fact that Golden can just do all of its plays, and then you go, okay, activate leader skill, untap two. Now I have energy up for not only Robotic Riposte, but Vegito gives it so much survivability. So I'd argue that would be the only card in yellow that you do hit for now.
Right.
Hmm.
That's one of those things where it's like I've seen people play the 5-drop Frieza, or I've seen people actually running the Golden Cooler Secret Rare instead in that deck because, well, obviously they're going to run the 5-drop no matter what. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to untap two and have two open after paying five and having that defense in yellow that yellow has access to, it is an issue in itself. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree that Golden Frieza is probably going to be an issue. Um, I know it's already doing well. It's getting tops. It has it won an event yet? I don't think it's won an event just
I think
recently yet.
it's.
No,
I think
Majin
it's
Vegeta's
one.
kind of been the one that's been topping a lot recently.
Yeah,
Right.
we
That's
can
the
get to that
yellow
point
one. That's
later.
Yeah, I think that's just like Golden Frieza down the line. I guess we have to keep our eye on it. So maybe it won't be an issue as of right now, but it could be down the line to where it's like, all right, this deck just keeps getting so many tools. Like in the next set, it actually is getting some tools. I don't know if it's going to
Mm-hmm.
make or break the deck or not, or if it's going to even help it at all. But that 5-drop SR is pretty solid for the deck. So I guess just keep an eye on it, and I don't know. Maybe it'll be more broken
Agreed.
than it is. Who knows?
Agreed.
cool.
Dirty Burst hit. That's the one thing we didn't talk
Thank
about yet.
God.
That's
Get that
kind of.
card out of here.
It
I don't
was,
know. It took me by surprise because it never came in mind like, oh, this card needs to go because that card kept Gogeta and Sin in check.
but they
So
did get banned. So then it's just like,
it's like now this card, a Dirty Burst that was mainly used against Red, now doesn't have to worry about Red, and now opens the door for it to be used against amongst a lot of things now. So I could see that being a huge issue. So I understand why they got rid of it.
I'll agree. I am surprised that they hit it, but at the same time, I think it's fair that they did because they're trying to make it so secret rares are still valid. I mean, I don't know if that's their entire reasoning behind it. I know their reasoning is it's a very strong card. It's used in blue strategies a lot. You know, it's like a staple sideboard card for blue. But the fact that it can turn off cards they're designing as secret rares, you know, that does suck as a game designer. It's just like, well, what if they just have this? They play the secret rare, nothing happens, right?
Well, not even so much. It not only hits secret rares, but it also hits even 7 cost boss monsters. Because a lot
Right,
of people
right.
forget it
Yep.
hits 7 cost and higher, not 8 cost and higher.
Yep.
Right. So yeah,
So,
for example, Android 13 would be a deck where it's getting hit.
100%. So thank God I've gotten got by that card so many times as a player. I'm happy that it's gone. I'm happy I never have to worry about it ever again. Rest in pieces, Dirty Burst. I won't miss you.
I mean, I'm just happy it just freed up 2 slots in my side deck, honestly.
I
That
am
is
happy it
also
opened
true.
some sideboard slots, yeah.
Come on, Haru Haru.
Um, so what did they also do? They also errata Zeno, which I think was probably fair. I mean, I honestly I don't think a whole lot of people were gonna sideboard that Zeno TP unless like decks like Goku Blacks and Masu, any universe deck picked up a lot of steam. I think it was more so
Yeah,
just safety helmet on it, just like, all right, let's not even risk what this card can do. Let's not create the potential issue, and let's just fix it.
Yeah, which
yeah,
smart on their part.
I agree, but I feel like it was almost an overcorrection where now the card is actually unplayable. Because I'm sorry, who will play out 12 gods like on their side?
The only deck I could ever
the
see
Grand
doing it is
Priest.
Grand Priest, yeah, and
Grand
that is
Priest.
literally the only deck.
Watch out, everybody! Grand Priest next best deck.
You watch out, guys. Grand Priest topping
I mean,
Tennessee.
I'll admit it is cool. It is getting support. They're kind of giving it mild legacy support as time goes on. And you know, maybe it'll
Uh,
end up being somehow cracked the more support they get. I doubt it, but that would be really
Don't
cool to
don't
see.
don't 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 throw that into the universe.
What I would love to see that.
No.
What? He's the
I,
second strongest character that we know of.
I don't. But I always joked about Great Priest being like that one deck where you're at a regional, you only need one more win to get top 16, you're X1, X2 or whatever, and the final round is your Great Priest matchup, and you have no idea what that deck
What?
does, and that player just slaps you silly because you have no idea what they are doing. I've always imagined Great Priest being that deck.
That would be quite funny if that actually ends up happening.
Be very funny. I'd
All
feel
right.
bad for that person.
So we could talk about the erratas, but the issue I have with a lot of the erratas, and I don't feel like covering all of them, is because a lot of them are textual erratas. So I think I'm just gonna hit the biggest one out of all of them and get it out of the way early, so the
Hyperbolic
rant
time
can
chamber.
happen. No, you knew that was not gonna be what that card did. You knew
That
it was
would've
not
been
gonna recover you life.
hilarious.
The
That would've been
hyperbolic
hilarious.
time chamber said you can gain 2 life. Essentially, there was no way that was ever gonna happen.
Hey,
Just for
they
doing
can
what
make a
the deck
secret rare.
wanted to do.
If they can make a secret rare that gains life, I bet I could get a
Field
card.
No. Once per turn, gain 2 life. Oh yeah, you knew that was not happening.
Should have
No.
been one per game.
The
Would've been
only
fun.
functional errata that really sucked, because this wasn't even anywhere on the card, and I get why they did it, but I think they did it poorly, was for Cell. And I know Joe has a whole rant for it, but there is
Oh,
no
them thing-
reason that Cell should have been limited to only green androids. Yes, he can play anything in the Z deck still, because it's just like any other leader that limits you for the deck, but you still have Z deck to work with. It should have been, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think it should have been it can't run black cards in the deck, and that is it.
Exactly. That's all it needed to have. Because, yeah, you started the game, you play Ginger Town. Ginger Town says you can't run any counters. Okay, fine. It stinks that you can't use, Shocking Death Ball, Homicidal Clones, Dormant, the major counters for green. But you still had other defensive options. You still had the Majin Buu Floodgate from set 14. You still had Kakutsa. Obviously, Cell's Earth Destroying Kamehameha from set 9. You have the new Kamehameha that's coming out. You have the Spirit Boost Boo counter that came out in the same set as the Floodgate Boo. But why? Why, Bandai? You absolutely nuked this deck from orbit. I understand wanting to fix that interaction with Black Mass Sand or Koitsukai. I truly get it. But David, as you said, you could have just slapped the errata on of, oh yeah, you can only play green battle cards or something like that. But now you only have 2 counters that you can work with. 2 freaking counters. You have the Android 17 counter from the freaking expert deck, and then you have the new counter that's coming out, which is, yes, I understand it's free, but that auto on that card should be anywhere existent. Because that card simply says it's a walking bear trap that says step on me. Nobody's ever going to kill that card willingly. Like, and of course, the worst part out of all of that, the new cell counter is a freaking limit 1. Why? You are legitimately giving this deck no support. Sure, I'll combo out my entire hand so I can save myself. And oh my god, you make the leader even a 10k on its awakened side too. That's just getting asked to get punched.
Yeah,
It's
they
bad.
really
Oh
dropped
my
the ball. They really
gosh.
ruined it.
Oh man, I can't wait to bring this to locals and just get absolutely wrecked. Can't wait.
You will not be
Thank
bringing
you.
this. I know you won't be.
You won't
Thank you,
touch
Bandai,
it.
thank you, Bandai, for ruining my favorite villain again. Thank you.
Let me just put it out there though. Expert deck cell got sport.
Don't you put that evil in my head, sir.
That SR is just a good generic SR though. That card's crap.
I agree. That SR.
Oh,
is
the token
very
one?
good.
Yeah, the token SR, the double
Oh
striker.
yeah, that's just a really good generic. Yeah, let me pay 2 and generate what he does 2 tokens and then they come out for 15k for the turn.
And then you just sack the tokens and you can snipe 2 markers. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Here's the only problem though: unisons are practically gone from the game now with Gamma.
I do like
so
though.
much unison removal.
I like that you don't need to even like sideboard this though. Like it could just be your main board, and if they run unisons, it's just like, oh, cool.
Cool, pop.
Get rid of it.
But okay, Bandai essentially said, yeah, we understand we made Cell unplayables and get wrecked, all you Cell fans. But here's a little nugget of something you might like. Like, screw you, Bandai. God.
Yeah, there
why?
could be an entire conversation on this cell deck and just how poorly it was handled. But we're gonna just move on to the winners and losers of the ban list instead of continuing the rant. So,
biggest winner is I think is yellow.
Well, okay, yeah, because yellow comes out unscathed, so obviously yes, they're the biggest winner. I guess technically all the other colors except for red and blue are winners, right? The only thing that sucks for green is the errata.
I even argue blue is somewhat of a winner, as Jake mentioned earlier, where now you have spots open in your sideboard because you no longer have the sideboard burst.
Right.
Yeah, and more dirty burst now it frees up 2 spots for whatever you want to put, and if you're maining it, you got something better.
And Jake, I'm sure you're happy. 6-drop Vegeta dodged the ban list again.
Yep. You know, I was on the boat for as much as I love that card in Beerus. I was on the boat like, yeah, this needs to get hit. But I think Bandai knew that as the next set was going to come out, that this Vegeta card was just not going to be that good. I mean, Beerus kind of faded out a little bit after. I mean, last meta he kind of faded out. So
actually, speaking of cards that could have been hit, that just reminded me. Bad Omen didn't get hit, and I do think that's going to create an issue down the line.
You're right, and that makes me upset because that card should be, ever since that new 21, the set 2021 came out, Bad Omen should have gotten hit by that.
Because you could play it for potentially 2 energy.
Oh my gosh, getting Bad Omen 3 times in one turn, that didn't sit right for me. That's just not fair.
Yeah,
I think uninteractable damage to that degree is just unacceptable.
I know
they
technically
limited...
you can interact with it, but there's not a whole lot of cards that hit 5 or higher, especially because it's a 25k power, so it's in a really weird spot. It's like, if they create more interactability, then you can have it, but right now we don't have that amount. Because I think we have like maybe 3 or 4 counterplays that effectively handle that card. But, when someone's playing 3 copies of it in their deck, then it's an issue.
Yeah.
And let's not also forget, if you happen to survive the 3 burns, discard 3 cards while you're at it too. Isn't that what?
No,
Isn't that what
they
it does?
pop a body
No,
on board.
they're
Pop a
gonna
body.
pop. So
Oh,
they'll
But
pop
regardless
potentially
of
3
that
cards.
fact, there's still 25k bodies that are swinging at you. So
Yeah. So
luck.
technically, yeah, those 3 cards are on board. They drop you down to most likely 1 life.
yeah.
You better wish you had a handful of counters.
And imagine if you have a small hand, because I did this to a Sin player once, where I put him from 2 to 1 off a Bad Omen play because I couldn't do anything else, and then I just swung with the Bad Omen and he had 1 card in hand. Like
Oh,
it's just like you can't
Imagine,
do much.
and
you're a
nowadays when
monster.
people, yeah, no, it's just
That is 1 card I think they should have hit. Even though I play the card, I think it either should have just been limited to 1, or banned, or even errata to a limit 1 auto or something. I don't know. I feel like
I would have
a limit 1
one.
or ban, one of the two.
Much as I love when the ban hammer comes, I think that card just needed to get limited. Good card, just limit it.
Other than that, I don't feel like there was a lot that needed to be hit. But a winner out of this list, and Joe brought this up to me, and I didn't think about it, was Broly Crown actually got a lot of help out of this list in the blue matchup. Because now they can't just tap 2, Dirty Burst you, and suddenly you can't look at their hand.
Yeah.
Ah,
Which.
yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Which red should never be able to have access to looking at hand. I think. I just think that's something red should not be able to do.
Well, you already neutered it enough by getting rid of Sin and Gogeta. Let it have something at this point.
And Broly Crown can't
rush
be played off
attack.
skills, so
Yeah,
that's a
rush
plus side
attack.
about that card.
And also, again, red is generally more an aggressive color, and you have to think red wants as much energy as possible to do damage, and it's just paying 1 now to potentially look at somebody's hand. That's 1 less energy that they're using to rush you down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Broly Crown's fine. Granted, I'm a little biased because I am a red player, but like I think the card's perfectly fine. I mean, at this point, the only color that really has to worry about it is yellow, and yellow draws half its deck anyway. So if they want to snipe 1 card, you just go okay.
I guess the downside to that is yellow also still has a response, and they can still do Vegito and then put themselves to 1 potentially.
Yep, they can do that, or they can just tyrannical blow.
Tyrannical blow.
T-blow. Yeah, though T-blow feels kind of bad on that.
Yeah, that one.
Like I'd much
no,
rather be
'cause,
doing
like-
a Vegito over a T-blow on it. Yeah, if they have something else on board and you T-blow and you can hit the other card at the same time, yeah, that's nice. But still,
Yeah, agreed.
I think also probably another big winner of this is just green overall as a strategy, because I'll tell you right now, with Sin and Gogeta both gone, green now actually has a chance to breathe, because Gogeta and Sin were just suffocating to that color. Like, they could not play the game.
well, actually, you bring up green, and that reminds me, the new SR for green is a huge winner because of Dirty Burst being gone. That card can now freely swing because it's not just restricted by the Dirty Burst being saying, 7 or higher can't attack. Oh, I played this, now I can't even do anything with it. So I think that's nice that it actually does help out this card, them getting rid of that. This card is cracked.
It's absolutely bonkers. I love it and hate it at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
What, the Gohan?
Yeah, the new Gohan and Goku card. It's a really good card.
Because what, on play it kills something ignoring barrier, and then on swing it rips a card out of your opponent's
Attack.
hand? Okay.
When they attack, you drop a card, opponent drops a card, but if you combo with a Goku,
you burn them.
and if your opponent has 3 or more life, burn 1.
Yep.
Yeah, you bring him out for what, 2 energy?
2
or 3
whole energy. And it gains barrier for the turn. That is also huge. Which means you can't even just get hit by Gohan.
A lot of these big green cards, you got the new Cell SR, this Gohan SR, the Cooler promo, they all cost 2 to come out.
Yeah, and
I kind of been seeing all that.
Faded Rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all come out for 2. No, except Piccolo. Piccolo's the only one in that.
But he comes out for 1, but he doesn't have barrier. He has dual attacks. So.
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's like it's like green, like all these green gets all these big monsters, but like still 2 energy to play them. Whereas red and yellow just tap 1, and here comes these big dudes.
uh, green, I do notice that often has this restriction is that it always says your opponent has 3 or more energy. I have noticed that a
Yep.
lot.
Yeah, which I think is also fine as well, because I doubt anybody wants to get slapped in the face turn 3 by
Oh,
new Gohan.
right, right. I think it's fair that they're adding it. What I think is stupid is that other colors aren't getting that. So green keeps getting
Yeah.
that. Like for example, and this isn't like a huge card or anything, but the Piccolo card from set 19, you just play it for 2 energy. There's no energy restriction at all. And then you're playing a 20k dual attack or potentially the pan from the deck to draw a card and have either combo power or whatever the heck out of it, you know.
Yeah, or it gets barrier, which yeah, that's Value Town.
Right, right. I don't know. That's something I've noticed with the cards they're designing, which it's fine because I think if these green cards could come out in turn 2 like that, that would be really cracked. Because
I mean, I wouldn't complain, but that's
I,
just me.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really be complaining, but at the same time, it's probably going to be an issue if they did do that.
What? You mean you don't want another green Majin Vegeta?
So, so I know we already mentioned the Goku Black kind of getting a dub out of that, and I'll say this, and another reason why Goku Black gets a dub out of the ban list, or Zamasu, like they're one and the same. Goku Black, Zamasu, the strategy with Indestructible. Red Sin is gone, so that's really huge because that was one of the biggest power negging decks. But there's also Android 13 that you have to respect. That deck can go off. It can be insane. It still can neg your boss guys, but just having to worry about one less red deck that does it is pretty big for it.
Yeah, and kind of going back to Red a little bit, what I did appreciate that Bandai didn't hit was the Omega Shenron from set 18,
Yeah.
because what I really liked about that card was it could be played in any red deck that had a red Z
Z
leader.
leader. Yep.
And outside of Vegito, the red Z leaders were really coming down near at 4 or less life. I mean, look at Android 13, Trio Sans. So it's not like the Omega Shenron was really broken outside when it was outside its own deck, if that makes any sense. So
Right.
I appreciate that that card is still around
Yeah,
to
looking at
fight
it,
back decks.
there's only one, two, three, 4 red Z leaders currently. And
It's what Vegito, Trio, 13, and Spaceship.
um not trios is spaceship. Um Oh yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess yeah, Super
same
Saiyan Trio.
trio.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, those four. Those four. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So those are the only 4 that have it. And realistically, you could splash in Omega in these decks. I know Vegito kind of does okay with it. I don't really think the other
hmm
decks function too well with it. Like it's not bad with it. It's just I don't think it flows well on there. You know.
Yeah, like I think the only other deck that you would probably run it in would be Android 13, but at that point, why would you spend 2 when for the unit absorption to play the boss monster of the deck, you can pay 1 and neg something 50k
Yeah.
because it's dual
Mm-hmm.
attack
I
combo
was
2 cards.
I was reading a post today about that card, and I was like, oh god, I didn't even think about the fact that if it loses dual attack and it gains dual attack again, it counts as a new instant of dual attack. So then it's just like, you swing with it once, you lose the dual attack by comboing the Android 13 from underneath, and then you tuck the Villainous Rare underneath it, and then it gains dual attack again because it has an Android 13 under it. Then you swing twice with that, and then you can plus the Unison if you have the Unison out, play another Android 13, pay 1, go into another Android 13. Like, I never thought about how crazy the turn 3 was in that deck.
Yeah, that deck is actually pretty wild.
Like, it has answers, and I like that it's a red deck that's like, it's a lot more fair of a red deck because it has answers.
Fair.
Yes, 100%.
Another deck that's I don't know what you guys think. Maybe David, we talked about it, but now that Gogeta and Sin are out, now the U7 Goku can kind of rise from the ashes.
Yeah. No, it can come back. It struggled to compete with those decks, because one of two things, it couldn't compete with Gogeta very well specifically
No, it couldn't.
because the
It was
hand
tough.
size was just so ridiculously different
Yeah,
that even with the power negging you can do in U7, it just wasn't enough.
no. But I am happy that U7's coming back. Got it built, sort of, ready
Yeah,
to play.
U7 is a really fun deck. I would, I'll probably be a little bit of devil's advocate, and David, you kind of mentioned it. I think people will start by playing it at first, but the biggest issue, at least back when I played it, I don't know how you guys were, but back when I played it, what I struggled with most was hand size. I mean,
U7, yeah.
it can comfortably stay at like 9, like 8 to 10 cards roughly.
Mm.
Um, but I more so when it competes with something like, say, we'll we'll throw out Majin Vegeta, where Majin Vegeta can just draw its deck. I feel something like that is going to shove it out of the meta,
Yeah,
personally.
I think the plus
Yeah.
side, well, even with T-Blow being in the meta, that does actually hurt U7 because before, not a lot of people were running T-Blow as much. But yeah,
No.
yeah, it is something where the meta has changed for that deck, so it kind of has to prove itself a bit. Like we know what it can do, we know the potential it has. It's kind of gotten support here or there, so maybe it can find a spot comfortably. But I guess the main topic of this entire thing is Red has opened up to the point where we don't really know what's going to be the best deck out of Red right now. We could take a
Mm-hmm.
guess, like Pan, Android 13, like
I
those are
could see
two that we
Pan
know are
going.
good Red decks.
I personally think Pan is probably going to be the one that reigns supreme amongst red decks just because she's very consistent. She can generate Z energy. She puts out very efficient attackers, which
Mm-hmm.
I feel is a lot more suited to today's game. Where,
Definitely.
um, and then obviously, David, you brought up earlier Android 13 being able, that boss monster is just says I win written on its effect.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is underrated. It's an underrated deck because, and I think part of it is just because it got a little oversighted because of the Sin and Gogeta deck.
yeah,
It is what it is.
but I'd say you can even make the argument that Vegito could possibly rise up
Oh yeah,
because that
yeah,
was also a deck that just got neutered by Dirty Burst because all your boss monsters
Yep.
were 7 cost.
yeah. At the
So
same time, it didn't fully get hit by it because if you were the player that swung with the 5 drop first and then evolved over it, you had that going for you. But yeah, if you went and did the Z leader free play on the Z battle card. That was a little weird to say, but putting out and then like they throw out the secret rare, for example, you just pay 2 dirty bursts and they're just like, oh okay, that's cool.
yeah, so I think Vegito also has a chance to perform, but I also think that will come down to how Green will perform in the meta because Green absolutely tears Vegito in half.
You know what? My prediction for the Annie box, Vegito gets another card.
You
Oh,
think? That is
Every
another card that
every
still won't
single
perform.
time it gets a card, and every single time it gets a card. And this time around they overtuned it, but I'm betting you they give it one more card.
I'm willing to take that bet in that they'll give it another card and the deck still won't perform.
Like it's always that rogue deck. It's just floating around like it can do stuff. But
I mean,
one other winner actually from this ban list is just control as a whole because now it doesn't have those aggro decks to worry about. Yes, there are aggro decks that can compete with it, but them having to not worry about a 14 card aggro deck. Um, and also Gogeta 8 being gone. I realized I didn't mention that. 8 drop Gogeta is gone now
finally.
and they don't
yeah,
have to worry about an it's interactable to a degree, but I'm gonna say uninteractable swing. You can still combo against it and use super combos, but you can't negate, you can't do things like that to it. So that was the downside to that. But that's why Control got some support out of that. They don't have to worry about that anymore.
true, true. I mean, I personally would have errated the card instead of banning it, but that's just me. Uh, am
Yeah,
I biased towards that? Of course I am, but that's
that
beside the
one
point.
was definitely a mixed opinion ban. There's been people who are like, yeah, that was a really good hit. There's been people that were saying it should have been limited to one. And then there's people that were saying it should have been able to only be run in the deck, but at the same time, they ended up hitting the leader anyway, so it didn't matter.
You get the
Yeah,
leader, the deck's pretty much dead.
Yeah,
It
I
is
mean,
dead. It's gone.
It's dead. And now they can make another red Gogeta deck.
I think they will do it down the line, and they're gonna make it for a lot more of a fair strategy where there isn't as much free play and draw.
Now they better. I
I
don't know
mean, I
what they
would
were
love to
thinking.
have a Gogeta deck back again.
Hey, we're gonna get a regular Gogeta leader soon. I'm betting. I mean,
So excited.
I'm
that
telling. Oh, for the next set, yeah, I can already see it.
yeah.
Now here's the thing: is it going to be Gogeta BR or is it going to be
No, no,
Gogeta?
it won't.
It's
It'll be just normal Gogeta from the Janemba movie.
It's so excited.
And the reason I know that is they already revealed Veku, and that Veku was from and this was an accidental reveal actually. They accidentally
Oh,
loaded the
that
wrong
promo card,
TPs.
right?
Yes, there's a blue yellow Veku card, and assuming that doesn't change, just going off the basis that that's what it is, that'll be a blue yellow Veku card, and that is from the Janemba movie.
Right.
Watch they make Gogeta
And the
black
and
in
the
the next set or
Broly
something like that.
and the Broly is OG Broly. I'm so stoked for that.
Yeah, that set looks exciting. But
I
moving,
can't wait.
I think I've covered pretty much like all the winners of this ban list. Like yellow as a whole,
Hmm.
obviously. I'm not even going to go in depth on that.
No.
So then we go into the losers. We've already did our rant about Cell. That was a total L. Then we go into blue. I think blue to a certain degree is lost strictly because it lost Dirty Burst, but it was
Yeah,
a fair hit to it. So I feel like blue's not like on a total L. They just feel bad about it, but it's just a new slot at the end of the day.
Right.
correct. Like,
I mean, you could potentially, if you're scared of aggro, take Dirty Burst instead of Dirty Burst, that Shin card, but it's useless after you charge your fourth energy. So I don't know.
Right. It's
I wouldn't
its
even bother.
full functionality is in the Gohan SH deck because you only have 3 energy. So it you know, it's alright.
surprisingly, just looking at the ban list, there's not many losers on this list outside of the three leaders that got banned,
Yeah, I mean,
which is
realistically, at the end of the day, it was only positives.
hmm so. I mean, I'm sure we can all say it's great for the game that no one really walked away upset. I
Yeah,
mean, the,
for sure.
as much as I love Gogeta, the deck needed to go. I will fully admit that.
Yeah, and I think this kind of goes into the next conversation I wanted to bring up, which is meta discussion and kind of looking forward to it. And what we're going to talk about first is we're going to talk about leaders we already have because we're more confident on those answers compared to, leaders that are coming out in the next set in set 21. Um, and how it opens up the meta, like you were saying. I really do feel like this has broadened things. Like blue isn't just the same leader over and over. Where it's Gamma and 21. Like yeah, 21's still gonna be there. I know that, but Dirty Burst being
Hmm.
gone has allowed for some other decks to gain some relevancy. Um, and those red decks being gone does allow some other decks to come back because some of those red decks invalidated some decks from even thinking about being in the meta. Um,
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one being Bulma. I probably takes the biggest leap out of all
yes.
of these decks because SS4 Gogeta completely invalidated her as a leader. Like, cool, you play out a million blockers and they just go neat, tap four, Gogeta, wipe it.
Right. And I know Violent Rays exists, but you can't do anything if that's the first card that happens. And I'm really sad with what Violent Rays is now, but I get it. They want 20Ks and higher to be able to swing.
Yeah,
So
and
30K higher, whatever.
and especially now with a lot of value attackers are becoming 20Ks, so just you don't want Violent Race just completely shut all those cards off.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I guess how I'm gonna do this is we're gonna go through each color and kind of talk about what we think will be meta, and then kind of go into the rogue picks after the meta. So I'm just gonna jump right into red. We've already kind of talked about this to the full degree, but I'll just list the four that I currently have written down. I have Pan, Android 13, U7 Goku, and U7 Gohan. And the reason I say U7 Gohan is because it's a deck that actually can draw a lot, put on a lot of pressure, and generate Z energy, which is exactly why a lot of the set 18 decks were really broken. But it doesn't gain the same hand size that Gogeta could hit, nor does it have the same boss monsters.
No, I actually agree 100% with that. U7 Gohan definitely comes out a big winner because, and this is me being the little conspiracy theorist that I am, with Gogeta, Sin, and Gamma gone, there can now potentially be an argument of, do we run Black Smoke in the side now? Because let's be
Right.
real, we are really only running that card for the most part for those 3 leaders.
Right.
And if people decide to not play Black Smoke, Gohan now takes a huge leap forward because they're not sniping away his unison.
Right.
So,
Right.
and as you said, Gohan absolutely draws his entire deck, but it's much more fair, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, U7 Goku, I'm still a little bit iffy on. That's why I instead said 13 Pan, U7 Gohan, and Bulma.
Bulma for
And
sure. Yep.
yeah, I feel just Bulma, especially in the right hands, would just absolutely frustrate people with the amount of defenses she can put up. And I mean, let's not forget the King Piccolo Unison is still a card. Burn you
Yeah.
from a lot of life to zero.
Right. I should have put Bulma on my list. I know we haven't seen it in the hands of many players, and the players who do typically use it are really good players. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it is one of those things where it's like now that those other decks don't exist, potentially other players are going to start looking at it and start experimenting and playing it and testing matchups and picking up traction with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like we said, meta's open, so we don't exactly know what it's going to be like for red, but it is something you have to respect. It's proven
Mm-hmm.
itself that it is a good deck in the right hands.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, well, isn't the next like regional Tennessee? That's the next one.
The next in-person regional as of today, May 29th, is
No, just
Tennessee.
yeah, that'll be the
So
first one. That's the
that
first big event after the ban list.
after
So
the
then
ban
we'll
list,
see.
yes.
So then we'll see. But my red list, I totally didn't even think about A13. I had Bulma, U7, both U7s and all that. So it wasn't even as much as I want Power Pole Goku to shine. I don't think it's gonna be meta heavy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we were going to talk about later in discussion, where it's like, we'll talk about the new decks and see how they'll potentially fit into the meta. Because like I don't know for all of them. My best guess is only the green Gohan. Because
Mm-hmm.
I really the blue decks could surprise me. The red decks could surprise me. Um, I actually blanked on what yellow is even this set. Oh yeah, actually the yellow
Frieza
decks
and
might surprise me too. Yeah, Frieza and Goku, Vegeta.
You
yes.
mean the Wii support?
Hey, that was just one promo. You calm down. But so that covers our red guesses for the top leaders currently. So then for blue, and I feel like this one's pretty straightforward and makes sense as of right now. So the
Yep.
blue guesses from what we already have that's out and usable. Soul
Mm-hmm.
Striker, both Android 21 leaders, expert deck, and the inset new 21, not the old one. And maybe the set 8 one could come back. It's still got the support. Like it's still a good deck.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know on that leader specifically. Reboot Trunks and Beerus. Those were the blue leaders I currently had. And I say Reboot Trunks because it is actually a really good generic blue leader. And the problem I have with that deck is I love running it how it's supposed to be played with all its support, but it's kind of started to prove itself that you splash in a couple of its good stuff, reveal from life cards, and then you run just a good blue stuff engine, and it's just really good.
Yeah, agree. Actually, my meta picks for blue are all the exact same. As you said, starter trunks has been kind of creeping up here and there. Just blue good stuff will kind of never go away. And part of the reason that's also why Soul Striker is also still up there. And Soul Striker also has the caveat of being one of the most versatile blue leaders, being able to run mono blue, blue
Mm-hmm.
green, I don't know, blue yellow or blue red or whatever people decide to come up with in their heads. And then Beerus ramp, obviously, with the set 11 SS4 Vegeta not being hit, Beerus still has the opportunity to just not interact with the opponent and just ramp to 16 energy and kill you right on the spot.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
Yeah.
I
The
feel
only
like go ahead, Jake.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like we really don't need to go too in depth with these leaders currently because this is stuff that we've seen proving themselves. We already knew. Beerus went to Worlds. We already saw what it
Mm-hmm.
can do. That deck is still crazy. The only thing it really lost was Boo Unison going down to 1, which is
Yeah.
it's fine. The deck didn't need it to function. It's just it lost some defense.
It was just extra protection.
Right. Soul Striker is slowly creeping back up and up because people are starting to realize, maybe this deck still is kind of cracked without having the different awakening uh, condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially, I think what really cracked it was between two cards, and both of them are secret rares. The set 18 Kaioken secret rare was a fantastic option for the deck when that came out, and the set 19 Gohan secret rare was also very cracked. And that one's insane with this leader because you can swing with the leader, restand 2 energy, then do the Gohan effect on it, restand the leader and whatever else, and then you can swing again, draw a card, and restand 2 more energy. Like, that was just insane.
Yeah.
Stop it! I'm already dead.
Thank God this leader does not have the plus 5k when you hit 5 energy now, because that would actually be a lot more scary.
Yeah, no kidding.
I will say though, I think a contender. You guys both put Reboot Trunks. I put
Mm-hmm.
the Blue Baby, not the new Blue Baby, but the old Blue
one.
Baby.
Yeah.
I think now that these two high-end aggro decks are gone, Blue Baby can finally, handle the aggro and be able to, make a name for itself again.
Yeah.
I think, the defense there is fantastic. We've seen what it did before these two decks came out. Now those two decks are gone. Baby's gonna come back. I think Baby got back.
I think it
Don't
can.
put that evil on me, man.
I think it can, but I did not want to say that it will be in meta because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of bad matchups still for the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it is a potential rogue pick, and I agree with that. I think with those red decks being gone, especially Gogeta, and it losing Dirty Burst does, of course, hurt Blue Baby. That actually is probably one of the decks that got the most hurt out of that, because that is something I would run main board, because you can just find any counter card. But yeah, it not having to worry about non-interactable 8-drop, and then suddenly you don't have enough combo cards in your hand because you're all counters, yeah, that does suck. Yeah, and it lost God Sealing, so that was another hurt to the painful part. But I don't know.
That's another card that can stay dead.
Yeah, it deserved it. I agree. As much as I love it, it deserved it. And I don't know what Unison, because the deck did thrive off of having Unison in Blue Baby, and maybe you just run the Blue Raditz Unison. That's like an option. And the reason I say that is the deck wants to not have battle cards on board, so having that Unison was nice just for the extra swing.
True.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to green here, and I'm gonna leave out the new leader that I have on my list because I realize I should just be focusing on what's current right now. Green, I currently have King Piccolo, Go Tanks, Cell Reboot, and Cooler. Green Piccolo is interesting because it tries to be an aggro deck in green, and it does a lot of stuff. Like in the right hands, it's a good deck. Scott Dashy has proven that it's a solid deck. He's topped with it. He's done very well with it. He's been on that deck for a while now, and he's doing very well with it. Green Go Tanks. I mean, I put it under green. Go Tanks realistically is just Go Tanks. Nothing else does what it does really.
Great.
It's been around since it's released. It's still been solid. I know it came out in set 18 for the reboot, but when it was originally around 2, it was also a solid deck as the non-reboot leader. Then you have Cell Reboot, who's proven time and time again that if you don't respect it, it will get you. If you respect the deck, then it does struggle. But it is still really solid to have a generic, 20k crit swing. And then Green Cooler, we all know what Green Cooler can do, and especially if people are going to start not respecting Unisons as much, and maybe people still will. It's that one deck that, because it has a bunch of one-cost Unisons, it stays around.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that one. I know my picks are actually all the exact same. But also touching on Green Cooler, it's also one of the few decks that can pivot very well between both defense and offense.
Yeah.
It's again one of those decks. If you don't respect it and you don't respect Unisons, it could potentially kill you turn 3.
Yeah, it can. It can. for sure.
And that's actually quite scary, especially because we still don't have a lot of unison interaction in this game outside of the color green.
Right.
So green and obviously released from evil. But
Oh, well, of course.
again, it's it's a deck that you just have to respect. Having 8 charismatic villains in the deck is never fun.
Yep.
And with yellow actually potentially taking off, green cooler has a phenomenal yellow matchup.
It does have a good yellow match. And for example, Golden Frieza is actually pretty susceptible to it. The reason I say that is it wants its one drops on board, and what does that deck do better than ever? It is able to remove cards on the opponent's turn.
Just a fantastic overall deck. I could actually potentially seeing it doing very well next set. But yeah, those are my picks.
Yeah, the only thing for mine was I didn't put reboot cell. Like again, I'm one of those that I didn't respect it, so I didn't even think about it. But I was thinking more so King Cold. I don't know. I have a sense that maybe this in the right hands could shine a little bit. I don't know. I was kind of like to see that one rise up.
Yeah, I know Joe and I did talk about that briefly. We did kind of talk about it being a road deck. No matter what, King Cold is still just a good deck. Like, it's just that one deck that consistently does what it needs to do. It really hasn't taken any hits on the deck at all, and
No.
it just it applies aggression.
Hey guys, if you hate robotic riposte, just play Green King Cold. Doesn't hurt you at all.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Tap my field card, tap my field card, tap my field card. All right, moving on to yellow, and I did not have a bunch of leaders here because I'm pretty sure we're still pretty set in stone for what yellow is, aside from what could be the new leaders. I have
I think
Trunks
yellow,
Vegeta, Golden
yeah,
Vegeta.
I think we're all gonna have the same one here.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to put Vegito on there. I was or Spirit Bomb. Let me say Spirit Bomb to make it more sensical to people. I
Well, I
kind
mean,
of wanted
Jared
to put
Lopez
it on there.
wrote that. It's possible. That's a good deck.
Yeah, Mike. I never
No,
know how to say his last name, but Mike played it and he topped with it as well.
that's who. I don't know why. No, Jared Lopez has just been topping nonstop. I don't know what he's playing.
I think he was playing Gamma.
Playing Gamma. Okay, never mind then. I thought he was the Vegito Super.
No,
Spirit Bomb.
Mike was on Spirit Bomb.
Okay.
I mean, it being a Goku and Vegeta leader in itself is what makes it so crazy. It's also a yellow leader. It has
Right.
access to Vegito, has access to Mecha Frieza. Um,
Right.
that's the reason I kind of wanted to put that there, but it might be more roguish than it is on meta. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of that deck to say it. Um, but I do
Yeah.
respect it as a deck. I respect what it can do. It can catch someone off guard.
Now I think Yellow Bobbity is gonna
Yeah,
be up there.
that's one I didn't put in meta. I have it as rogue, but Yellow Bobby is a very scary deck. It does what it needs to do, and it does it very well.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. But no, I think honestly, Golden Majin Vegeta are going to be the main two largest yellow, decks that are going to be played until something happens.
Yeah, I agree. It's most likely just going to be Majin Vegeta, Golden, and Trunks Vegeta. I know some people have been saying that Trunks Vegeta is starting to fall off a little bit. I highly disagree. I think it's a very good deck. It still generates a lot of value. Who does not like drawing 3 cards on your turn?
Yeah, I think it's more so people are afraid to kind of keep playing it because everyone knows what it does. But the thing is if you're a really good player with it, no matter what, if anyone knows what it does, you're still gonna win because it does what it does well.
Exactly. And that's the mark of a good deck is, hey, this is my strategy. Try and stop me.
Exactly. And it runs all the good yellow stuff well. It has access to
Mm-hmm.
being able to draw so much, like you said. Like, it's just consistent. I don't think it deserves any sort of hit. The only reason we said golden is because it has the ability to untap, which no yellow deck has aside from that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also just when it comes to meta though and yellow, I put Trunks Cheetah at third out of those three, only because it has to run a larger engine
Mm,
of its own archetype.
right.
Where Majin Vegeta and Golden can get away with running 8 archetype cards, and the rest is yellow good stuff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
it's one of those things where I don't feel like yellow has opened up a whole lot until we can kind of see what those leaders are doing. The
Mhm.
new leaders, when I say that. And I'm hoping to see that like Swap Frieza, for example, does well, or the Goku Frieza leader. Like I actually think, or Goku Frieza, sorry, Goku Vegeta leader. I actually think that leader is going to be pretty cool. I'll talk more on that later, but I'm excited to see what that deck can do.
Yeah, and I think the new Golden Frieza leader is really cool. Just the fact that they're bringing the swap mechanic back. I feel swap as a whole has been like one of the forgotten mechanics because every single time it's come out, it hasn't really treated the game in a great way. Obviously, Goku's lineage, Red Broly, and even Red Frieza had its moments where it just would steal games away from its opponents. So I'm happy to see that they haven't forgotten about Swap.
Yeah, definitely. And I understand. Yeah, like you said, broken, but yeah, the one time it wasn't broken was Clash of Fates with the red one. Unfortunately,
Yeah, and even that was when you combined it with Sensu Bean, you can easily kill turn three.
yeah, you could, and that's just well, in its prime or not prime at its initial release, no,
Yeah,
but
no, oh no,
once Set 9 dropped, 100%.
yeah.
um, so let's dive into Black. Black, I don't think has shaken
Ah,
up too much, but the new
oh,
support
poor
might
Black.
shake it up. Um, so currently, and I could technically list off the old leaders, but I really don't know how much the old support's going to affect them. So I'm gonna just start with what we have and what's consistent. Supreme Kai of Time, Cumber, and Xeno Goku. But Xeno Goku and Supreme Kai of Time I would kind of combine together because they're essentially the same strategy, just different leader skills, different ways of running the Demigro unison. Um, I personally love both decks. I have no issues with them. I mean they're not top decks in the meta unfortunately because Black just for some reason is missing something. But they do what they do very damn well, and they will aggro you. And if you don't respect it, they will get you.
Oh, agree 100%. My list is actually different to a degree. I also put down Cumber and Kai. Cumber obviously got a big bump with Gogeta gone because that
Yep.
matchup was borderline unwinnable.
Yep.
But I feel like the deck everyone forgets about and it always catches them off guard. AOD, Agents of Destruction.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, that is 100% coming back in this meta, and I shouldn't say 100%. I feel like it will, just
uh,
without Gamma gone. It's ugh.
yeah, and sadly, I I hate this deck as much as the next person because Android 13 counter is such a pain in the butt to
Yep.
deal with. But it's just a cheap, aggressive deck. All your cards are essentially one costs. All of them generate value, and of course, the new Omega Shenron the deck got is absolutely snapped.
Yeah.
Just pay one, blow
Yeah.
something up, ignoring barrier, or draw a card, and oh yeah, by the way, I have triple strike. Thanks.
Yeah. Dirty
Like,
Burst being hit doesn't even affect that card at all because it was literally a one energy investment. Like, sure, you Dirty Burst that, cool. I have like 30 other attacks coming at you anyway.
mm-hmm. And the only hope that would keep AOD in check is if Red does well, because I wouldn't say that. Red and Blue in particular, because one Sensu Bean or one King Vegeta's imposing presence
Yeah.
really shuts that deck down.
Right.
Because the one
Right.
thing AOD can't do is trade card for card with the opponent.
Right, because it doesn't have enough card draw. Because all it realistically has is Turles, and I think
Mm-hmm.
technically the Omega can draw you a card. Just typically are popping Ignoring Berry, but I guess it does call for the situation.
Yeah, it does.
And
You
I
do have
guess
the
you have
option to draw a card.
offering with the baby Janemba, so
Yeah,
I do have
there.
to remember that.
But yeah, I say AOD could definitely make a comeback.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
As much as I
yeah,
don't want it to.
I agree. I agree. As much as I hate that deck, I agree, and I only hate it because of how free everything is in there. I hate free
Mm-hmm.
plays in the game. I've never liked it. Everyone knows free is broken.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what card game it is. Free is always a very poor design mechanic.
That's pretty much my list as well. Very similar.
All right. So, since we've gone through all the potential meta decks from the leaders we already have, I'm going to go into the rogue decks that we have. So starting out the rogue decks, I'm gonna kind of go in color order here. I actually have Cooler at my number one red rogue. I think Cooler actually is still probably number one red rogue because not a lot of people respect it. And then when they face it, suddenly it's just doing what it does best and being Cooler.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're talking about Cooler Mill, right?
Yep, red
Yeah.
Cooler.
Okay, I'm like it's the only red cooler, but like when you're like, yep,
No,
being
set two yellow Cooler.
Yep, all right.
Broken.
Well,
Infinite
always.
cooler.
Well, guys, we forgot to talk about the obvious best deck in the entire format.
Set two
Bobbity.
Bobbity. Oh my
That too,
god. How could I
Bobbity.
not?
Yeah, that's
Broken.
broken. But no,
Um,
red, definitely Cooler Mill.
And Cooler always seems to creep up out of nowhere when yellow is strong, just because yellow needs its battle cards on field in order to do stuff.
Yep.
So, sorry I cut you off, Jake. What were you going to say?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a feeling they're actually going to give this deck either a Z card or a Z leader, something like that. And I could see them potentially doing like a golden cooler portion for this leader.
Oh gosh.
That'd be kind of cool.
Throw that out there.
No, it would be cool. I don't mind them giving this deck support. It's never been a deck I hate. The last support it got was Anti-Box stuff, right?
It did. Yeah, it got the last anniversary box. It got that chilled.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, the chilled helped a lot.
I think another deck that could potentially make a comeback, and obviously it always depends on the pilot. Invoker.
Yeah.
Invoker is always a deck that would definitely catch people napping. Obviously, it always comes down to the format and or the pilot, but especially with Android 17 Invoker or even OG Invoker, it can definitely catch anybody off guard.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it does what it does best. That multicolored blue stuff is just really strong.
Uninteractable damage.
Burn
Yep.
4 in one turn, please. It's once you have that set up, you're pretty much always winning. But the problem is you got to get that set up.
Right, and that's obviously its weakness. Is it just again comes down to the format? But I personally think Invoker can definitely make a comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those rogue picks for sure. I agree with that.
I don't really have any other red, but if we're talking multi, since it's red blue, I was gonna kind of hop over to blue.
Yeah, I can jump into blue as well. So I'll lead it off with blue, and I'll say Gohan SH. It's been that consistent rogue pick. Like it's still just an aggro blue strategy. It does kind of live and die by the secret rare. It can win without it, but that secret rare, once you see it in that deck, ooh, that is an L. You're just getting whacked.
Yeah. Yeah, Gohan SH definitely up there. And now this one, I just hope I'm gonna say Krillin. I think we got
Kriller time.
It's Kriller time.
Blue's getting some good support. The Gohan Secret Rare the Gohan Secret Rare in general is a great card. Throw that in Krillin, just literally a 20k crit.
Dual attack, essentially.
I think Krillin is got the support it needs with the Piccolo Infiltrator. It's got the Z deck. Got the Goku Vegeta Z card that goes in, and then you got the Goku Black that plays out off of 3 Z energy. It's just blues finally have like versatile aggro cards, and I think Krillin can use it pretty much really well.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see like mono blue actually having more aggro strategies, because mono blue was never really aggro. You maybe could have done a couple decks that did it, but there was nothing that did it insanely well because most of the time, if you were doing anything with a blue leader, it was typically blue with another color.
Pretty much, yeah. Blue, yellow, blue, red.
Yeah.
I think another blue deck that could potentially do well, and David, you kind of touched on it earlier today, was Set 7 Zam.
Yeah. That field card's good. That field card's just really good.
Oh, you mean I can't play battle cards 4 or higher? Oh, I guess I just lose.
Yeah.
It's, again, one of those decks that unless you know what you're doing against it, it can really catch you napping. The leader has just 1 energy, bounce anything, which, especially with the Dawn of Z cards, just one energy, remove anything. Um, it's a super defensive deck. With Sin gone, you can easily play out your Zams without worry of them just getting annihilated the next turn. Uh, it's I just personally like this deck. It's one of my one of my pet decks that I always kind of like to bring back every once in a while. So I'm hoping
You
it
know what?
does well.
Something I actually hadn't thought about, and we had been talking about how the 3-drop supports that deck so much. And like, yeah, it does. One thing that never popped into my mind, that super combo helped the deck. Now you don't just have to run 4 Zams. You can run a Goku Black draw super combo now.
Oh yeah, you can't. What that? I thought that only works if your leader's Goku Black.
It maybe you're right. I thought it could work in there, but I'll double check it right now. Actually, here, let me pull it up because that actually is kind of big for the deck. If you can run it,
I
because
have it pulled up right here. No, if your leader's just generically blue,
yeah,
play
that's
four
that's pretty
less.
big. That's pretty big.
Yeah, holy crap, that's really good.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's not insane for the deck. It's not groundbreaking, but the deck not having a draw super combo, like you could run draw super combos, but having a searchable draw super combo is pretty big.
Yeah, that's actually very strong.
Um, and I guess to build off that for your set 7 Zam as a pick, I would also pick Goku Black. Now, Goku Black also has the generic flaw of if you're facing red or you're facing yellow that has the ability to get rid of indestructible easily, it does kind of fall apart a little bit. However, the leader is still pretty generically good, but it does thrive off of having the 7 drop on board. And that's kind of why I was picking that, because it works on both turns, and it's a really good card.
Leader that draws on both turns has never been a bad thing.
Yeah, the 7 drop mint. um, Next pick I have is Super Saiyan 3, and strictly because everyone knows Super Saiyan 3 untapped 3 is really good. You can't really go wrong with it. It only really suffers against any hand destruction deck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we're talking decks that we all hate, because thank you for bringing up SS3. Gosh, that's another leader I wish was gone. But Janemba Mel.
uh,
Oh gosh,
I hate
that
that
I,
leader. I hate that leader.
Everybody hates Janemba Mill
Unless you're playing it.
there's unless you're playing it correct. It's who I mean, you sit behind what 50 negates or 50 defensive cards, and you just say mill two please, mill two please, mill two please. It's just so freaking annoying.
Yeah, it does get slightly better from this ban list for sure. Um, and especially if the meta's slowing down, that's typically when Janemba thrives.
100%.
Uh, one of my other picks for blue, and blue has a lot of rogue picks on my list, but this I think
Same
this
here.
actually is my last rogue blue pick, and it is SS4 Vegeta, which essentially is kind of like Beerus, but it doesn't have uninteractable. It's still interactable technically, but you don't have to force a leader swing through in Beerus to get ramp, whereas in Vegeta you do, and that's where its downfall is because it would love to do that. And if it gets the swing through, perfect, you're getting the ramp. But that's the problem
Mm-hmm.
is if people know how to face it, they're not letting you get the swing through.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, I mean, leader also has kind of built-in counter protection. Just you counter me, cool, swing again.
Yep, yep, yep,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
And David, I'm actually shocked you didn't mention this one. Set 13 Gohan.
Um, yes, I. It
I'm
has.
genuinely shocked.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, now that Gamma's gone, it actually probably holds a much stronger place than I actually was thinking in my head. Because one of the hardest matchups I had, and it does struggle against set 21. That is a pretty
Mm-hmm.
tough matchup set.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that was tough.
Gamma having the ability to just bottom deck any of your skill lists that you play does really hurt that deck. But now that it's gone, you might be right, actually. It could be a rogue pick. The deck, if any of you have watched previous videos that I've done and recording the deck profile, that deck pops off. Like on turn 3, you can kill turn 3 in that deck. That thing is scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're up against it, terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about putting it on there, and initially because in my thought process was it just struggles against Gamma, but now that Gamma's gone, you're right. You're just right. I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm. uh, Jake, do you have anything else to add?
Not for blue.
Yeah. So green, um, unless you
I
have
was gonna
something.
say I had one more for blue, and this is probably the biggest reach pick out of all of them. Was Super Saiyan Blue Vegito from the starter decks.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah, and it struggles bad in the green matchup, really badly in the green matchup.
yes, it does. But again, going back to my conspiracy theory of Black Smoke getting hit, the deck can then thrive. You have a very strong unison in 17-18 that will just generate free Z energy
Hmm.
in a color that has the strongest Z battle cards, um,
Hmm.
giving the any unison triple strike for just what 2 energy, if
Yep.
I'm
Yep,
not
two
mistaken. Yeah,
energy. Yeah, two triple strike 10K.
yeah. So again, it just goes back to the fact that Sin is now gone, so these unisons can live, and I, that's probably my biggest reach. I'm like 50-50 on it still, but I do think it might have an opportunity to at least play.
Yeah, no, it's a good deck. I respect the deck it for what it does, but I know it has, and which a deck should always have a flaw and an out. I know it has pretty strugglesome flaws. Like green is gonna mollywop it.
Mm-hmm.
Any deck that runs black smoke is gonna schwack it around a little bit. But if they are running the build that runs the 3-drop unison, black smoke doesn't even hurt it. So it
Exactly.
is very interesting where this deck does lie in blue meta, because what it does well, and being able to just give a unison. And one of the reasons that the activate battle is big on the 3-drop unison is because that unison's a dual attacker. So, and I say that because if they negate the first swing, oh well, I got a second swing to at least attempt with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see this being a potential rogue deck, and if it ever gets more support, the deck will do great. I know it's gotten sprinkled support here or there, and literally any generic blue card is support for this deck.
Yep.
Um, I am going to jump over to Green Rogue.
Yes.
So one of the ones, obviously King Cold. King Cold was already talked about. I'm not going to go in depth on that. We don't even need to talk about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I will say Majin Vegeta for sure, because you always have to respect a deck that can just keep double striking you and be aggressive and kill you by turn 3. Um, I know
Yes.
you're on the deck. I know it took some hits, but no matter what, the hits weren't big enough to where it holds the deck down entirely, because it still does what it does well, which is beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, and it's probably the best spot where an aggro deck can be, where it's a glass jaw,
Hmm.
where it could pump out a lot of attacks, but it can't really take a lot of attacks, which I'm fine with a deck being like that, which is that aggressive. Um,
Right.
yeah, your card draw is always tied to your life, so you can't really afford to take a lot of hits. Otherwise, you don't draw.
Yeah.
But that 3-drop is still just absolutely
That
disgusting.
3-drop is disgusting for sure. Um,
Uh,
one of the other green decks I have, Raditz, because you just have to respect the hand hate. But this isn't normal hand hate. This is warping hand hate. So now your
uh,
Deboras aren't fully plausible.
but the problem is I don't respect it.
It's alright. The reason I respect it is because, and I don't fully sideboard against it. I know a lot of my decks can handle it. I've played it before. I know what it can do. I know it can beat decks. I know it's good because it can potentially turn your leader into a triple attacker. Um, the only downside it has, no, the biggest downside and its largest downfall is the fact that it doesn't get a huge hand. And it not being able to draw off the leader at all, and it's only drawing one when you awaken or something like that. It's been a while since I've
Mm-hmm.
looked at it, so I guess I can pull it up. But that the deck, if it can do everything perfectly, obviously die roll matters for that deck. Like it going first is huge, but
Yeah,
it going second, it's also nice, but it's not in the best position. Um, you draw one card and untap one energy. Okay, so the Awakening's slightly better. But it being able to gain crit as well is huge. It's still one of those hand hate decks where it's like, all right, I gotta worry about it at least because it's still hand hate. I need to make sure every card in my hand counts.
yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Also, generic green support happening. So
Uh, again, I got a bit of a reach one, and I'm sure some people will be happy to hear this one. Green Boo.
Actually, that Z leader is still cracked. It's just
Yeah.
it's in a weird spot right now because like it has the potential to be good. Maybe Gogeta actually falling out of the meta helped that deck a lot more than I realized because the 8-drop clearing their board so easily is what really made that crumble.
Hmm.
And same with
Well,
Sin actually, that too. But
and what's nice though is especially if U7 starts to creep back up into the meta, a lot of people forget Green Boo just annihilates U7.
yes, it just eats everything from the
It
drop.
takes it apart. Yeah.
Like having a leader that can suck up a dual attacker or a double striker, especially because I believe the Z leader is a 20k, right?
Yes.
I believe you're correct.
So the fact that your leader can just eat up all that stuff and also kind of mess with your opponent's drop area in that matchup. Um, Again, I think it's a bit of a stretch because it kind of does depend on red. Because Wolfang Fist absolutely kills the Boo tanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, oh yeah, I'll sack a token to save it. Oh, its power still at 0. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I I
But
respect the deck for sure.
yeah, it's definitely a deck you have to look out for because it can pump out, again, a lot of good attackers.
Right.
With the
Right.
tokens being all 15k and the boot tanks being 15k, and all this stuff is a very, very cheap. They're all one energy
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I think yeah, a lot I think the max you really pay is 2. I mean, 5 if you're going for the board wipe boo, but typically about 2 energies or max.
And
And
even the 2 energy play you can play for free off the Z leader.
Oh, yeah, you can, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna shift into my last pick for potential rogue decks for green, and this is on the low end of the rogues for me. It's Turles because Turles still does what it does well. You know, it can apply a lot of early game pressure. The only downside is that whole field card ruling, or not field card, sorry, the fruit of the tree of might, whatever the tree is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that
The extra card.
ruling, yeah, that it hurts the deck a lot, but the deck still does well. Um, so I could see it being a rogue deck. Probably
Mm-hmm.
not near the top though. It's one of those like bottom. You'll see like 1 or 2 people playing it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I was actually gonna throw out a green Gogeta, and this is my copium a little bit. um, the deck can surprisingly draw a bit. I mean, it's practically green Shrunks Cheetah. Um, it'll pretty much just come down to how strong that champ card will be in the deck. It's a very strong card. Being able to draw when you combo and for 1 energy play out your big Super Saiyan Blue SR and give it dual attack. And I don't care who you are, a 35k dual attack double striker that on play rips a card and blows something up. It's pretty strong.
yeah, no, I think that would have a good standpoint. Uh, what did you Raditz? Was Raditz talked about?
Yeah.
Okay, I was in the bathroom. That's why.
Oh. Thank you for the
No,
details there.
of course. No, green. I think that's pretty much for green because like Gotenks is not considered rogue, but it's getting up there. Um, I wanted to say I want to. I guess we could jump into. I don't know if you have another green on you, but we could probably jump into yellow at this point. And then with yellow, I would probably say maybe I don't know. Who do you think for yellow? I want to hear your input.
I got a whole slew of yellow decks that can come back. Starter Baby. Uh, it's a deck that's kind of always there, lurking. The Z card is absolutely phenomenal. Being able to play out the starter red yellow card, just give it offering 25k dual attack is amazing. The
Hmm.
deck is just a little bit inconsistent because it kind of lives and dies by finding that Dr. Mew. But when it gets going, you are legit playing
It hits
solitaire.
hard. Yeah, it hits hard. That one, I could see that one. And then yeah, if they drop down that big Goku ape or baby ape, it's over. I mean, a triple striker just like that. That's so fast
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
by
You'd be
turn three.
surprised how dealable that is actually nowadays. Now, is it still a problem? Yes, but there are a lot more answers to it compared to set 8.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yellow Gotenks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. As a generic yellow leader, it's one of those rogue decks.
I think the only reason why it's because it's unawakened side, the take a life draw, having
Yes.
the Broly BR ability is just it's nice. And now that I want to jump because I'm gonna throw my uh head in. Broly BR yellow. I think now with we got to see the new Paragus promo that kind of helps the deck
Oh,
Yeah.
so excited.
a
I
So
lot.
I
excited.
So
I'm not sure what those promos are gonna do for the decks, and I kind of wanted to wait till the end on some of the what those promos are supporting because I actually think those promos are gonna support a lot of decks.
Hmm.
Obviously, what they're tied to is what they're gonna support best. But for example, that Kefla is generic, so that's kind of why I wanted to
okay.
Yeah,
branch
for
out a
sure,
little.
for sure.
Um, Let me see one of my yellow builds. Oh, obviously, I'm just gonna say this. We don't even need to talk about it. Kid Goku, still rogue, still does what it does best.
Um, yep, agreed. Who doesn't like searching top 10, not having to interact with your opponent for a card?
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, and I'm
Drip
just gonna probably
coup.
war. Yeah, Dripku. He just got outclassed by the meta. But David, I'll let you now scream and rant.
Oh
Yellow
no.
Sin.
Fucking hate that deck. Yeah, unfortunately, I agree, and the champ card helps that deck out so much, but it helps out every deck. But the problem I have with that card in that deck is the fact that the leader can search it. So now you don't have to gamble on them having it. You just straight up know that Sin has it. So it's just a headache and a half. Um, Sin's still gonna do what it does. It's still gonna play control-y. I think you could play it mid range if you wanted to right now, because that new Sin Champ Pack card kind of plays both spectrums where it can be aggressive and defensive. Um,
And it gives yellow access to 9
yeah.
drop.
What's even stupider, now that I'm thinking about it, you can swing with that 4 drop, right? They play a token negator or whatever. You do your Sin ability. You restand it, negate that skill for the turn. You swing with that Sin again. Guess what the leader does at the end of the turn? It restands your guys. I hate that deck so
uh,
much.
oh man, no, trust me, I agree with you. Yellow Sin is always that cancer that just never goes away. Um, but again, I think this is where I'll throw in Spirit Bomb. I think Spirit Bomb is a pretty good rogue deck. The only issue I had with it was it can't really deal with a board. Like, if your opponent starts playing out your stuff, at least from my testing, you can't really stop your opponent from flooding their field.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, you can only, you know, play defense so much. And when you're spending all your resources on defense, you can't spend your resources on offense.
Yeah.
Which,
I I
Yeah.
don't know. I That's why I need to see what this top 16 list was for it. Because I need to see what they did that I hadn't thought about. And if it's things I already thought about, maybe he's just that good of a pilot. Like, I know Mike's a good pilot. I just need to see what he had. I've
mm-hmm,
never built the deck or played it. I'm sure if I did, I'd probably do better than I expected with it. But the fact that
mm-hmm.
the card, the one drop Vegeta from that set, can turn into a 15k, and then you can EX evolve over it with the set 16 card is pretty huge. That in itself is actually more support than I expected for the deck to have, because that means you can
Yeah.
play another one of the one drop Vegetas to be another 15k swing. Um, the deck draws a lot. It cycles through its deck a lot. And I don't know. It is an interesting deck. Not a lot of our locals play it. Only Evan's the one that I've seen playing it. And unfortunately, I faced him with Max Protect 21, and he did not have a good time.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on the build and the pilot behind it,
Yeah, I
and
need to
your
see builds
matchups
for sure.
because it depends on his matchups as well.
Um,
Uh,
I'm just gonna throw this deck out there. We don't have to talk about it. Bardock, it's getting a new TP to help it. But Bardock's one of those rogue decks where it just does what it does, and it can do well in matchups. It's not, it's obviously not top tier, but it's a rogue
no.
deck. You have to respect it. It did well at Nats. Um, I think it went like 6-3 or something like that at Nats, which is way better than I
Really?
expected. Yeah, it did very well.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I Granted, you got to think it was a best of 3 environment, not a best of 1 environment, so maybe it thrives more off of a best of 3 environment. So it's one of those decks. I respect what it does. I don't think it's
Yeah, it's a cool
number
deck.
1 rogue deck, but
Yeah.
I'll say the next deck, and it's just Wish Goku Black. It's not fantastic, but it still does what it does very well. It draws a lot of cards. It's gotten support. I like the Z Leader. Some people actually don't like the Z Leader, which caught me by surprise. Um, I don't know. It's one of those decks where I think it's a rogue deck.
You wish Goku Black. Unfortunately, it's not on my radar at all. I just call me a hater, call me what you want. I don't respect it personally. I mean, I might just concede against it out of boredom because people will take a 20-minute turn to do nothing.
I know when you
Yeah,
played
pretty
it,
much.
you were getting mad at it too because it's like I'm literally doing nothing. Like I'm just drawing a bunch of crap.
Yeah. Another one I'll throw out, and again, this is more copium for me. Yellow Jiren. It's
It's you have to respect the fact
Getting
that you
hit by
can't
that
take damage for the turn.
getting hit
Essentially,
by that guy is not fun.
yeah. And, I mean, let's be honest. If you don't respect Yellow Jiren, or at least kind of have a plan in the back of your mind on how to deal with it, you'll get hit with that 10 drop that just says, "Oh yeah, everything in rest mode. Bye bye."
God, if they run that, that is premium spice. Because I know not a lot
Or
of people run it.
just hey, pay 6, slam down the SR from set 4, turn sideways, quad strike me,
Quad.
can't stop.
Then someone does God Strike Beerus on you, and you're like, well, we both just ran jank cards, and I got out janked.
Pretty much.
You know what? Someone hits you with that,
I,
you scoop and you offer the handshake on that one.
I don't have any other yellow decks.
I
I think
couldn't
that's
think of
really it for
anything.
Rogue. And, maybe there's something we're not thinking of right now, but for top Rogue decks, that's really all I have off the top of my head. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess I'll just jump into black. Um, I guess I should say this just because we covered red and green. Broly Surge, it's a good leader, generates the energy, draws a bunch of cards, generic, red and green. It's solid.
Yeah,
I feel like we don't have to dive in depth on that, but I'll throw it out there for people to think about. Um,
yeah, and I'd say the only downside for that leader is the fact that you can't run the token negates.
yep, yeah, I agree because they're tied to mono leaders.
Mm-hmm. Which
Uh,
is what it is.
so then we have in black, man, do we even have any good black rogue decks out there? Mechi Kabura, I guess, but that also is getting support, so that's a more debatable topic. Um, Same with Trunks.
Xenosin.
Xenosin did top, and I agree because when it turbos the mill out, it is rough. I'm actually surprised. Oh, it's probably because green isn't getting a lot of showing right now. When green is more showing, it typically invalidates Xenosin a lot more. But because
Mm-hmm.
green isn't super high up there, I can see why Xenosin's doing well. But with Gohan coming, I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I agree because you have to respect what it does, and not a lot of people know what it does. So it's a lot of surprise factor with that deck.
yeah, definitely. And oh god, and again, another deck I wish would just go away and die in a ditch. Hachiyak.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's Hatch is weird because like in some metas it's garbage, and in some metas it's great. But with Unison's kind of dying down a little bit, it might be great again.
Please, for the love of God,
And
do not bring this deck
it can
back.
efficiently run Black Smoke too. And I only say that because it's in black. It can charge it if it needs to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what did I just do?
I
Yeah.
doubt it'll fully come back, but it could. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Any other black decks? I guess always respect the Super Saiyan 4s. That's
Yeah,
always a deck, but it's not like up there. But that said, 18 card was a really nice boost for the deck.
it definitely is. Who doesn't like a free super
Yeah,
combo?
free 10k right there. Any other black decks? Wow, I can't think of any that are
Um,
really like pressing.
I don't know.
I can't really
I,
think of any either. Well,
uh,
Gogeta Xeno, maybe.
I, it's in a
no.
bad spot. I respect what it does, but it's not in a good enough spot to be rogue. Um,
Yeah, it's very much a boomer bust deck.
I
Like it,
guess
yeah,
Vegex. Vegex is one.
Yeah, I could see Vegex. Um, I would say Toa, but come on.
Yeah, yeah, poor Toa. Um,
maybe maybe Massan. Yeah, it lost Champa, but
yeah,
they still have an in archetype Champa, and
right,
oh my
right.
gosh,
Yeah, I think personally I would say the Massane. Yeah, the Kraken Space Time is really good.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I hesitated putting it in Rogue just because again, it's a black mill deck, so you're
Yeah,
heavily based on your RNG.
yeah.
But again, it's one of those decks that if it pops off, you will not have a fun time.
Yeah, it is kind of a sucky thing that it did lose some of its best cards for the sake of the game as a whole. Um,
Yeah, but they had to go. They had to
it,
go.
it, it had to. It had to. I guess I can say magenta, and the only reason I say magenta is because it's a black deck that does a lot of discarding. Um, but if someone's already respecting it with Deborah, it's really not as bad of an issue. Um,
That, or if you
especially
respect it just by clearing its field.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, especially if you're playing red right now, where you have access to the Gohan TP, where it literally just negs 20k on one of their cards. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's
it's
I.
it's got its outs, but I respect it because people will play it. But Black Mass Saiyan actually is one I consider rogue, and the reason I say that is because it does a lot of stuff pretty well. Actually, it can run the starter deck cards very well. It can bring back a what 3 or higher black card from your drop back to your hand, gains 5k for the turn. Like it's not bad. It got support too, so
Does it bring back 3 or higher?
yeah, it is. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, heck, if they answer your Gogeta thwarting, just okay, bring it back.
Yeah,
Do it
exactly,
again.
exactly. Like you can run Overwhelm efficiently in the deck. You also have the Trunks SR from set 16 to refuel your drop area from the warp. Like it's a pretty solid deck. I mean, it needs support and they're giving it support.
Yeah, like the only thing I don't like about the deck is it's lacking raw draw power. Like you're
Oh,
picking up
100
stuff from the drop.
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
That
so
is its downfall.
but
Um that's really all I have for black cuz I'll dive more into Super Saiyan God Trunks and Mechi Kiboro because of the support. Um
mhm.
uh Yeah, so that covers all the colors as a whole. So we'll jump into the new decks, kind of talk about those. So red, I honestly don't think the Pilaf Garlic Junior leader is gonna do a whole much.
Junior, that's
Yeah,
a joke deck. That deck,
like
that was just
it
he's the
could.
fan.
It actually could do something. I've seen what it can do. It's just a matter of I don't think it does it well enough right now. Like it needs support.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
the Power
I
Pole
agree.
Goku deck though, I will admit it can do a lot of shenanigans because there are a lot of red Goku cards. Um, so this deck has a pretty good footing. I think it will actually pop up pretty well in the meta. I just don't know. I haven't seen it perform. I haven't done online testing. I have no clue what it fully can do, but I know what it potentially can do is pretty
Uh, I, you can go ahead, Jake. You sounds like you're trying to say something.
I'm pretty excited for Strip Coup, man.
neat. I don't think it's
um,
bad. I don't think it's bad.
I
No,
think
I think that's gonna be great. And then like I don't know, just like the recycle of the power pole. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a fun deck in the right hands. It could be broken depending on how they build it. I mean, but just thematically, I think it. You know, I was kind of messing with the idea of familial bonds. Bring out, the other 3-drop Goku's from your drop, just to continue on with the power pole. But I don't know. I think red would be great for. I think Strip Coup is definitely gonna see some. I know I'm gonna build that. I mean, come on, man.
um, personally, I think the Goku deck is fine. Like the leader itself is fine. Where I think it mostly shined is the fact that all of those cards, especially the SRs, are generic.
Yes.
They can be slotted in any red leader. Actually, even some of the Garlic Junior cards are generic too. I mean, the 8-drop SR negs the entire board 10k, everything
Hmm
10k.
hmm hmm
So if you're having a poor green cooler matchup, cool, pay 2, neg your unison a static 10K.
God, that is such an
Yeah.
L that it does that to poor green cooler. um,
So like, I think
yeah,
so. My point is, I guess I don't think the leaders themselves are overly fantastic, but the generic cards that Red got are great,
yes, I agree. They
personally.
have generated some pretty nice stuff. Also, though,
Yeah.
I will admit, Power Pool as a card is actually pretty solid. Um, it's a pretty neat interaction, and it giving the leader giving crit to guys with Power Pool under it is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so
Yeah.
jumping into blue, I don't really know how I feel about Oob. Um, I think it's an interesting deck. I, I just don't know how it's gonna do. This one I really need to see perform before I even have a full
Yeah.
opinion on it.
I gotta be
So
honest, blue didn't wow me this set.
so in regards to Oob, I actually find the deck kind of cool in that yeah, you're giving your opponent Z energy, but after a certain point, that may as well be removing them from the game because your opponent, you have to figure, okay, they're probably running a Z leader, so that's one slot taken away.
Uh-huh.
They probably have two to four archetype Z cards, which one of those Z cards plays out the other without
Right,
having to
right,
burn any
without
Z
having the
energy.
Z energy, right?
So like so you figure there's probably only going to be two cards that get rid of that Z energy. So in a way, it is kind of just getting rid of the card,
Right, yeah,
and you're not putting
that
it
is a
back
fair
in the
point.
deck. So I think it's an interesting deck. I don't think it will be top tier. I think it will definitely catch people napping. But I think the bigger one was Baby. I actually really like that Baby deck.
Yeah, I was talking with you about it today, and I actually think it's going to be a pretty aggressive deck. It's one of those ones where I was reading it at first, and I think it was just confusing me with what it's trying to do. But after kind of reading through some of the cards, I'm like, okay, it's actually trying to be a pretty aggressive deck, especially with that new promo. That new promo is actually really good for the deck.
Because what is it? Static 10K with Servant, or is it a 5K with Servant?
I think it's a static 10K with Servant.
Which
Um,
that's really good.
I still have it on my phone. I do. It is a Servant 10K, and then when it's played out from under the field card, right? There's a card
Mm-hmm.
from your hand. No, it's from your hand. It's played from your hand. My bad. And it has double strike for the turn. So then you're swinging a 20k double strike from one energy. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and of course the leader has Overlord as the two baby leaders have, aside from the yellow ones. It's I don't know. I can see it doing pretty well. I think it's one of those ones where you kind of have to experiment and learn the deck a lot more, especially since there are existing baby cards, um, especially for blue baby. Um, it could be very interesting. It could go places. So I'm not gonna put this one near the bottom at all. I actually think this is probably mid to high tier out of the set. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely
Um,
got to experiment with it.
yeah, and the fact that also it has a card that if unisons do just so happen to come back that just says pay a blue,
Oh,
get
bottom
rid
deck
of
it.
it.
Yeah, that is really strong. That card is really strong.
And for even for the deck itself, it's just on play, grab two brainwash, slide them under your field card to even turbo out your aggression even more. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic card. Goten is great. Pay what one blue and it bottom decks anything on the field, well greater than your opponent's energy.
Right, greater than. Yeah.
Like the deck can definitely do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Moving on to green.
I
can we
think we
just
know.
So,
let's just skip over Cell? I said my
yep,
piece.
Cell is dead on arrival. We'll just
So,
leave it at that. Green Gohan looking really good coming out of this set. This
green
is
Gohan saves
this
green.
is like everyone's child of prophecy. They're like he's the chosen one. He's the one that's going to bring green back. I do agree. It's going to be a very good deck for green. It probably won't be like this insane green deck or anything, but it's going to be a really solid green deck. It's going to be able to search top five for green Saiyans on the unawakened side, which is actually really huge because when you think about it, there are a lot of green Saiyan cards out there, especially
Is
when
that
you can
an
grab the best super combo for green, arguably Paragus, and you can grab the
Yes.
SGR. Like
Yeah.
does that have an energy restriction on what it can grab?
literally no energy constriction
Oh,
at all.
lovely.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, it is very solid.
it's
And what's cool, and I was talking to Jake about this a while ago, Hyperbolic Time Chamber specifically references the card name, not the character name. So it is checking for the unawakened side, which is specifically Sun Gohan. And when that Gohan is under the field, it'll buff the unawakened side by 5k. So now you're not even getting pressured like an unawakened leader normally is. You're sitting at 15k like any other awakened leader typically is. So you can choose when you want to awaken. If you don't want to turbo that awakening, you really don't have to. What I like about the awakened side though is the auto does work on both turns. So it's one of
yeah.
those things where you gotta figure out the deck, figure out your footing, figure out your comfort level, and when you want to awaken.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple of flip tables at our locals going against this leader.
There's going to be a lot of Gohans at our locals, but I really hope if they keep this direction for Green moving forward, that Gohan is the start for better things for Green.
Yep.
I hope
Agreed.
Green finally getting the love. I mean, that Android 16 leader, going back and rereading it after Jesus kind of mentioned it, that's a really good Green leader. I think finally now Bandai's focusing all their energy on making Green good again, and I'm here for it
Yeah.
because you know.
Well, I'm hard biased here, and it's Gohan, so I was already going to play this
Yeah,
before it was even
yeah.
revealed. So screw everyone else jumping on it just because it's a good green deck.
Well, and just historically from the game's perspective, we haven't had a strong green meta since set 11, and you can
Yep.
argue two of those decks weren't really
Very
green.
green. Yeah.
You had Gotenks and Majin Vegeta, which were kind of their own things. And then
No,
obviously Cell Surge.
I'd argue that when the Broly BR starter came out, that was kind of huge.
Well, yeah, but you got to think that was set 6. That wasn't set 11.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but I was.
Yeah, Joe was saying the most recent
Oh, the
green meta we've
recent.
had
Oh, I'm
was set
stupid. I
11.
thought you
No,
meant in
we
general.
haven't really had like yeah, King Cold made some waves, but it was never the meta or anything. Um, and hopefully we didn't just forget a green deck or anything, but I'm pretty sure we haven't.
OG Broly sitting over there like, bruh.
Oh, come on, man. Lord,
the
set 12 Lord
Antibox
Slug sitting over there.
Oh,
Antibox
stop.
just did not do enough for green, unfortunately.
No. Oh, you know what? That we kind of have been kind of leaving out with Green. Green GT Goku, the recent one.
I didn't bring it up because I don't think it's deserving of the slot. Like
No,
it's
I'm just
not
bringing it up because it sucks.
a oh.
No, no, no.
It doesn't suck. It's just mid. That's all it is. It's just mid.
It has good tools, but the biggest weakness for that deck is you can't play green cards. You can't even play a freaking token because the token doesn't have a color.
Oh, not green cards. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
But
pretty
no,
rough.
for Green, yeah, Gohan. I think this set Gohan is the chase deck to build out of this
Yeah.
set. Had 21 was last set. Gohan is this one because I mean
And,
Gohan. It's
oh, good.
just such a good deck.
Yeah.
And then you have the secret rare on top of it that, oh yeah, my
We
leader's
like.
now a triple striker. I'll restand him, swing again, and then if I don't kill you, oh
I'm
yeah,
a
he's now
40k based.
Yeah,
Well,
40K
you got to
base,
think.
I'm
You
sorry.
got to think with the Z leader, its skills are not negated, so it is actually going to be. And I can't remember if the auto is once per turn on that, but it is still regardless. If even if the auto is once per turn, base it is going to be a 40k double strike swing because it is a Son Gohan childhood leader, so its skills aren't being negated.
Yeah.
I hate it here.
Yeah.
So I should have left that pulled up, but jumping into yellow, I do think, and this one's probably a little more arguable. I think the Goku Vegeta leader is going to be really good in the hands of a really good player because this looks like it is going to be a heavily pilot-based deck. You have to know every bit of your sequencing, and if you know it all and get it down pat, this deck is going to be very aggressive. It is going to smack the crap out of you. It can do a lot with one energy. Like, it does multiple one energy plays. Multiple. And your turn 3, I mean, with that Whis play, I'm trying to figure out all the things you can do with that Whis play. But I thought the one cool thing was you can do an Overwhelm on the turn before you actually drop the Whis or whatever. Then you can, going into your next turn, because it goes all the way to your next turn and skips your opponent essentially, and you skip your charge phase, go into the main phase. You can do another Overwhelm. Um, So, and you can do stuff with like the popping your energy and kind of feeling your overwhelm that way. So I thought that was interesting. It's definitely going to be like a unique deck.
um, I, I agree and disagree with you at the same time. I agree that it's a very strong leader. Um, it will definitely make waves in the meta. But I don't think it's due to its archetype. I think it's just due to the fact it's super generic.
Mhm.
As we currently see right now, the better yellow decks are running less and less of their own archetype. So I think it's probably going to be the best generic leader, or generic yellow leader, excuse me, in the game.
I
Excuse me.
agree.
But that's my personal opinion,
Okay.
is running less of the archetype cards.
Hmm. Interesting. Gotcha. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is something that's gonna have to prove itself in the meta. I do like that it does get to pop rest moded cards. I thought that was interesting, and it on the flipped over on the Vegeta side, it gets to choose when it wants to flip essentially until it gets involved in a battle. But that activate main's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Agreed.
Jumping over to Frieza, I actually really like this Frieza deck. Um, I think this actually breathes some life into Frieza to be a more generic Frieza deck finally, like just Frieza stuff, not Frieza's army or anything like that. Like we're actually finally going to see a Frieza chain going into an 8 drop. I really like that it reduces the swap engine so that it encourages you to run that swap engine in there. Um, I think it's very interesting, and I think it will find a home in the meta. Just I don't know at what point it'll be in, but it's cool because it still has access to like Cold Bloodlust and stuff like that, and all the generic good yellow stuff. Even Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte has a great time with this deck because it has a new SR, which is a zero cost extra card, so it's pretty nice.
Uh, Again, I agree. I really like this Frieza deck. Uh, it can actually shotgun Z energy very, very quickly. Surprisingly, I really think the set 18 Goku ZSR will become very crucial in that deck.
Mm,
The fact that you have not only your leader, but your one of the other Friezas is generating you at least 2 Z energy a turn.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So you can easily just pay 3, slam that guy down, turn him sideways for 25k, and then have so much Z energy that you don't care about sacking.
Mm-hmm. Sacking
Just,
it for the
just
auto.
yeah. Uh, that's what I really like about that deck. The boss monster's cool. I mean, it switches everything to rest mode and wipes the board or something like that, or it's wipes everything in rest mode, ignoring
I think it
barrier.
wipes everything in rest mode, ignoring barrier.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. But just the overall fact that it's a cheap yellow aggressive deck that can generate Z energy, I think that's just great. And David, as you said, it's an actual Frieza deck, not Frieza's army.
Yeah, it's something we've needed for a while because the last actual like Frieza deck we got was, oh man, probably Red Frieza. That's kind of gross to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, another swap deck.
Yeah, because when you think about it, Set 12 Frieza really wasn't. Like, it had a couple cards, but it really wasn't a Frieza deck. It was a Frieza army deck at the end of the day as well.
And yeah, Green Frieza was just Pod and Dodoria.
Yeah, that wasn't even a Frieza deck either. That didn't even run any of the Set 10 Frieza cards for it. Like, it really was just good stuff Frieza armies from the green deck, or green cards. Like,
I mean, you could Red
charismatic.
Frieza stuff if you wanted to lose.
Well, yeah. But that pretty much covers all the leaders from the set. So then we jump into the legacy support that they dropped, which is the Supreme Kai time stuff for SSG Trunks. Which actually, I'm just gonna show that leader because that Z leader for SSG Trunks is actually kind of cracked. um, I am a huge. I don't know if a lot of people know. I'm a huge SSG Trunks fan. Um, I really like what this Z leader has to offer. It's one of my favorite decks. But being able to make that activate main that I had to pay for before, now free, and it power buffs him and gives him double strike if you have the unison on field, is huge. Because now your leader's a threat.
Yeah.
You have free removal with a threat from the leader. So I really like that card. Um, and being able to turn one play the unison is absolutely huge for the deck too. Like that was just insane. Um, I think this is what actually makes the deck pop back up in the meta, is the support it got. Especially because the Z deck it initially had was dog water, like terrible. Like you had in set 18 Demigra, like cool. This card is borderline unplayable because of how bad it is. Then we go into set 19. I don't think there was really anything, and the anniversary box had like maybe the Goku card, I guess. So the Goku card kind of helps because it's a 2-drop at all times. That could be a bigger swing for crit. Set 19 gave it nothing because it was all Cupper stuff, right? And the only thing I
No,
got after that was the Zenkai Dash Pack cards, which
set
was
19.
the
What was set 19?
um. You're right, it wasn't Cumber. It was. Oh, I don't. Was there a Black Leader in set 19? There may not have been. Cumber was set 20, so my bad on that. But then we got the Pan Xeno card, which is actually a really good generic card for any Xeno deck. Um, yeah, I can't think of what was in set 19 for black.
We did not get a black leader in set 19. That was
Right.
that was magenta. We got
Yeah. So
Kid
there was
Goku
a Broly
support.
card, Kid Goku support. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there
Yeah,
was any Z card in there from memory.
No.
there was not.
Yeah, so you're literally working with what, 3 plausible Z cards between set 18 to set 20 for this deck. And yeah, this was just huge for it because it gave it finally something to actually work with in addition to what you already have. Oh, I guess you have Vegeta, SSB Vegeta surmounting the impossible, but not that that was a huge boost for the deck.
No.
But the even bigger thing, that new Supreme Kai that came out is essentially preventing your opponent or preventing your unison from being smoke dragoned.
Yes.
Just pay a black, cool, I get it right back.
Right back from the warp, exactly. Because it's hand or warp, which is absolutely huge. Um, holy cow, there are a lot of Supreme Kai time cards. There we go, I found it. Yeah, that was absolutely huge. I really like this card. I like what it has to offer. Then the Mechikabura support was really nice. I think it was a nice boost to the deck. I don't think it was great for the deck, but it helps it. No matter what, at the end of the day, it helps it. It's a boost. I think it'll find a slot in Rogue because no matter what, when you're warping things from your opponent's drop area, it typically tends to be pretty solid, especially when Expert Deck 21 has been picking up some meta play. It's just like, all right, yeah, I could warp their super combo, never have to worry about it. So,
Jake, you were gonna say something about Trunks. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
What? Which Trunks? The black Trunks?
God, yeah, I thought you were about to say something.
No, I have no really much. I don't have much experience with Trunks or anything, so I've just kind of been quiet.
yeah. Oh, actually, I forgot about the 8-drop, too. That 8-drop was really nice for the deck.
Oh, that dual
Speaking of
attack
that
guy,
8-drop,
yeah.
yeah, speaking of that 8-drop, I just find it really funny about like how card design has come so far in this game. We're looking at this Trunks. If you slot this in like set 7 or earlier, that is an SR.
Yeah.
All over it.
Yes.
But in this set, nah, it's a rare.
I really like that art too. Him with just the key sword out. That's really nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. And just on swing, warp anything, ignoring barrier is very, very crisp.
Yeah, yeah. The triple strike with barrier too. Ooh. And I like that they made sure that it was clarified that the Xeno Evolve does work with the set 16 Trunks as it was intended to do.
What, you didn't want to use the set 4 SR, the one that you have to pay 5 to Xeno Evolve onto?
Good God. At least it's actually a combo that can work. I'll give them that. At least it works.
Oh, God.
Am I forgetting any other legacy? Oh, Toa Sport. There was Toa Support.
Support.
It helped,
not
and the
really
reason
good.
it helps is because it gets the Unison stuff going for it, which it struggled with doing stuff for the Unison, so it's nice. I'll give it that. It helps the deck.
Does it though?
It's
Yeah,
still gonna be crappy.
It helps. I think the lower cost card is what I'm referring to, and I don't remember what it was out of there, unfortunately.
That's the one that. Well, the problem with that
This
lower
one.
cost card is it only prevents your tokens from being removed for that turn. Like, it would be so much better if they actually, like, you actually got Omni protection as long as she was on the field. But because it's black and black is not the best color in the game. They have to keep it fair.
Yeah, I think it's neat though because I am rereading the two-drop Toa that they revealed for the support. It is nice because it does feel some Z energy stuff. Because it can combo from the warp if you remove a skillless battle card from the game. So that's pretty neat. It makes some more threats on the board, and then you also have the new champ card coming out to low key support the deck as well. So Toa, I think, is actually sitting in a better spot than I originally thought it was because that champ card is pretty nuts. So
What does that champ card do anyway?
it can give. So I believe when a demon realm or demon god is in battle, um, and you combo it from your hand, it's like you pay a black spirit boost one, give the attacking card like 10k power and double strike. So I think in theory it's like it, and I don't know if I read the card entirely correctly because it also was a blurry image, but I know for a
Hmm.
fact that's mostly what it does. So 10k power double strike. So I think it's like a 15k combo double
It's pretty
strike.
good.
So it's solid for what it's supporting. Um,
Hmm.
and so, since there's no more legacy support to cover, I'll just cover the champ card. So that card will lead off with that card helps out
Whoa,
Devore
whoa, whoa,
Xeno
whoa, whoa, whoa,
mostly.
whoa! We do still have legacy support.
What did I forget?
We've got the multicolor cards.
Oh, what do they have in multicolor? I forgot entirely.
Whis and the Beerus and the 16.
Oh, that Beerus, dude. Oh, that card good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I can't believe I forgot about that. The Whis is all right. I know what it does. It's pretty powerful in the fact that it's negging every attack, which is really nice. Um,
Well, buffing every attack.
or yeah, I get buffing. My bad, not negging, buffing. What is it? Plus 10k or something like that, right?
Plus 10k, and also if you have another red blue multicolor card other than it in your energy, it's a free red blue charge.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
It's nice.
definitely helps with Invoker,
Yeah, I'm
in my
I'm
opinion.
not a huge fan of that card, but it is a nice card nonetheless. I don't think any less of it. I just never thought it was insane. I don't think it's terrible. It's one of those ones that sits in the middle for me. The Beerus, however, that is really strong because I mean, what Red Beerus had been missing for a lot of the time was the fact that it didn't have a good ignore energy exhaust card, and it just got that. And it's just like, huh. Now it's also got a really good SR effect where it could just play, tap a card, draw a card, neg 20k, like be a 20k double striker, something like that, right?
25k.
25k double strike, even better. That card is really good.
Super strong, and frankly, the only thing that's holding it back is the fact that it costs 2 in order to rival out.
Yep, it's nice. It has deflect. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
It's nice. Beerus has like been slowly getting support. That TP card is actually really big for Beerus. This card is huge for Beerus.
Hmm.
Then it also got that BT14 card for Beerus. I guess technically you get the villainous card, but I'm not really gonna count it.
Yeah. It's
Oh, and
the
the
same.
set 17 super combo was absolutely huge for that deck. I didn't even forget.
Yes.
I forgot. I just forgot about that card, but
Yeah.
that card was huge.
Um, and to kind of pivot off of that, as much as I cannot stand the new set 21 cell, I think the green yellow cards that they came out with are actually pretty good for what they do. Not amazing by any stretch, but still decent. They both have the same skill of if your leader is Cell, you have another android in your energy. It's a free ignore energy exhaust green yellow charge,
Yeah.
which that something that especially the successor decks needed is they just they need to keep their energy online. You don't want to give up a turn with a energy exhaust tapped card.
Right.
And
Right.
the new 9-drop cell, it searches out the new Kamehameha, pop something. Um, but again, the problem with that card is you have to use a cell, a 17, and an 18, so we'll just ignore that part. But I mean, the
Yeah.
other cell is a nice 20k blocker. It's a free combo card, so it they have their merits.
Yeah, it's just it sucks that the deck that it was intended for just kind of got schwacked. So, um,
Hmm.
I mean, at least I can give the merit that the 9-drop cell can be used outside of that deck pretty efficiently, just for the fact that it ignores energy exhaust and works with other green cell leaders.
Hmm. definitely. But yeah, it's, like I said, decent support. Not the greatest, but I'll take what I can get.
I think that covers all multicolor, right? Hitting that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's the secret rares are the only thing that's
Yeah,
left.
I'm not going to talk about the secret rares. If people don't know what they are, just look them up. We don't need to cover those. The champ cards, I will say that these really boost a lot of the decks. Like you were talking about Green Gogeta, that Gogeta card is a huge boost for Gogeta. It only having one Union Fusion target was a struggle in itself for the deck, and it's actually a really solid card for the deck. The only downside I see on it is the fact that it plays the 4 drop, or the 4 drop, the 8 drop on turn 4. That's the only
Yeah.
Yeah.
downside I see, but it
Which in
gives it
this
dual
game is
attack.
a little too slow.
Yeah, it gives it dual attack though, which is huge.
And Jake, I know you mentioned the Paragus
Yes,
earlier for
that
Yellow Broly.
that card. I mean, ever since they neutered Broly BR to just switching Broly BR battle cards and just taking a life, it just made the leader useless in a sense. So now this Paragus being able to add the top card of your deck to your life whenever you switch Broly BR to active mode just kind of helps the deck a lot, I think. And I can't remember its second activate main or any,
Oh, the bean effect.
I believe it's you pay 2 yellow and you can buff a Broly BR by 5k until the end of your opponent's next turn.
which I think is cool.
Yeah, especially being able to buff your leader 5k.
Right.
And
So it's
if you're playing the green-yellow support that came out in the anniversary box, you just now flood your field with blockers.
Yeah,
the
and you're just defending.
the pay 2
So
activate main is to actually play it. The pay 1 is if you have 4 or more energy, you get the bean effect.
I
Oh,
will
okay,
say
okay,
though,
okay.
I will say these champ cards are so underwhelming compared to the first champ print.
You know, I would agree, and I agree in the fact that they're not generic enough, but actually,
They're
when
not
you look
OP
at
enough.
what they do, they're actually really cracked for their respective decks. They
Agreed.
they really help them
Yes,
out
but that's
huge.
just it though.
It,
They're only good in those decks. Take them out, and they're dog crap.
I
Whereas,
think their approach on these were better than the last ones because I think the generic ones are always the poor route to go because when they do that, it always ends up creating expensive promos. It creates super broken cards, whereas cards that are tied in for their respective decks, yes, they're really strong, but they're only good in their own decks, so you're never really going to see them outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to create another Yellow Sin champ card effect where
God, that card, that's just oof.
That's why I actually prefer this era of champ cards over the last ones we just had.
I could argue that the reason why I prefer the last one is because then that gives you incentive to go to these events to participate. Why would I want to pay $30 for something that's just not generically good?
I agree.
So
I
that's
mean,
that's my
realistically, what they need to do is first of all, I think one of the things they should have done, the cards that are in the packs with these champ cards, I think they actually should have made them alternate art promos, first of all. I think what they need to start doing is actually making more alternate art promos, and then that'll start creating more incentive.
Yeah, or at the very least, rarity upgrading certain cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know that's what Konami does with Yu-Gi-Oh! At least, where they don't necessarily print out a card in their OTS packs. They actually just rarity bump cards or rarity downgrade certain cards so they become more accessible.
Right. I do like that the tokens they're coming out with though, they're giving tokens we didn't have. So that's also nice.
yeah, I like that.
Um so
Token card's cool.
we talked about Gogeta, we talked about Paragus. Paragus is going to be a huge bump for that deck. I guess I'll say that we should be seeing Broly BR make an appearance back into the meta in some form, whether it be Rogue or just
Just
multiple
there
guys
because
trying it out. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
You have to respect the fact that the deck got support, and now the leader ability is now a lot more plausible because you're recovering the life that you're taking.
Yep.
And also the other leader ability on that leader, which is the one that everyone tends to forget about, it is just a free activate main tap something.
Yes, yes, and
Like-
that is always a really good part to that leader.
Yep.
Which is good against token negates.
Very strong against
Huge.
So Toa, I'm looking at Toa a little more in depth now. So she has crit and deflect. She is a 15K. She has swap
Okay.
3, limit 1. She swaps into a Toa 3 drop. So it goes, I think right now the most viable target for that is the SR Toa, which is a
Okay.
dual attack
From the
15K draw card.
Deborah deck,
Potentially,
right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
When it's played, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and warp it, and then this card gains 5k power for the turn. And then that combo ability I said was exactly what it was. Um, so it does turn into a 15k combo, which is pretty interesting.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good card. It's good. It's pretty solid in Toa. Obviously, it's going to be best in Deborah. It is pretty generic across all Demon Realm race and Demon Realm God, as I said, or Demon God. Um, so I think it's actually going to be a lot more impactful than a lot of people think. Um, I respect this card. I'm sure a lot of people don't. But it's nice that it actually applies 20k crit pressure while allowing to turn into a 15k dual attack draw card as well.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Um, the next one is Yamcha. This one might be one of the little more underwhelming ones. I know what it does is interesting. It works really well with the unisons. Paying 2 for it doesn't feel as great, but the fact that you're playing it from your hand, and I'm struggling to read through all the abilities as it's pretty blurry, but I'm pretty sure when you play it from your hand, you also play another 2 drop from your hand, and I believe it has to be an Earthling. Um, and then when it's played, it gains 10k power until the end of the turn, so it turns into a 25k. And then it has once per turn, sparking 5. When opponent's battle card is KO'd in battle by this battle card, you draw a card and then switch this card to active mode, and then it gains crit for the turn. So it's really solid for Yamcha. It does help out the deck.
Yeah, it's not terrible. We definitely seen worse. I mean, I'm sure we can all remember the green Vegito champ card from many years ago.
Ugh.
So,
Oh, oh
yeah, so
God. I could go into a rant with that card too.
Yeah.
but like so it's not the worst card they've ever printed. It's solid for what it does. I mean, you could play everybody's pal, Yamcha, an old TP card, and
Yes, yes,
get
yes.
another get another draw. Or isn't
The
uh,
set 10 TP one as well. I don't remember the name of it,
yeah,
unfortunately.
what Yamcha the Lawless, I think his name
I
was.
That sounds right. I know it can turn into what, a 25k double strike or something like
And
that.
then at the end of the turn, you draw a card or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I could
so
just look it up, but Yamcha.
yeah, you can play that. Like, there's options that you can do. Um, so yeah, like I said, it's not
Oh
the worst
wow,
card.
it's activate battle, gain 15k and double strike, so slightly better than I thought.
Oh,
I
oh.
know it's too red, but still.
I mean, yeah, when you're free playing that boy out and you can attack at battle cards in active mode, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's making me wonder if it's worth running the Sin Shenron Unison in that deck or not. So, uh,
Eh,
it's gonna be an interesting deck to see Yamcha kind of resurface in some form, especially with
mm-hmm,
the old set 5 SR. That's still a really solid SR.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm glad it's getting support. That's a leader that needed it.
Yeah,
Um, the
it's just
last
nice that.
promo. Oh,
Oh,
I'll let you finish.
I was just gonna say, it's just nice that Bandai hasn't forgotten about certain decks that.
Yes, yes. I'm glad, and I'll admit the legacy support they're kind of doing is probably the right thing they should be doing right now. I think let's get less on the new cards for a set or two. Focus on some old decks. Like, yeah, maybe make a leader per color, but let's start splashing in old support to boost some leaders, and then go back to
Yes.
designing
Mm-hmm.
more.
I
But
100% agree.
I do think we need a Battle Evolution 2 soon, because Battle Evolution was probably one of my favorite well-designed sets. Like, I think it was well done. Had the way they supported everything, gave generic support. Like, it was just a huge branch off that worked out really well. So I think we need another one of those.
Yes, there's great set, great reprints. I mean, all those leaders in there were actually pretty good too for what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, A13 I think was arguably the worst. Nah, Heroines probably was arguably the worst than A13. But
But
the
Nappa was a
blue,
good
yeah,
aggro deck. Obviously,
Nappa
16. Shout out to
16,
Jared
yep.
Lopez.
And then even Tien had some time in the spotlight. Like, it wasn't a bad deck. So,
Oh no, of course not.
um, so the last promo I have here is that Kefla, and this one's a very interesting one because this one works out really well generically, And the reason I say that is, yes, it is a 7 drop, but it also says when this card attacks, draw 3 cards, then your opponent bottom decks 3 from their hand. So it's just like, man, this is a 35k triple striker that's ripping 3 from your hands and plussing 3 in your own hand. Like
Yeah,
that's a threat.
And
I could see it
again,
being fun in ramp decks. Kale, I mean, its uses for Kale. I don't know how efficient Kale's going to be ramping up,
Kale is
but
a ramp deck, so it is pretty
I'm
efficient
just
actually.
telling you. I'm just telling you, Beerus is gonna love this card.
It is a 0 for 5k combo, so that is pretty notable. Because a
Yeah.
lot of their boss cards now typically are just 0 for 5, which is it kind of sucks that they're doing that because I do want them to have a drawback on running those cards.
Yeah.
yeah, and unfortunately, like yellow seems to be like the only one where they keep doing that on. If
Yeah,
you look at like the new Boo card or anything like that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it it's it's just looking at the cost of it. It's like, yeah, it costs 7, but let's be honest, in blue you may as well subtract 2 from that, and then it's a 5 cost in any other color. So
Oh, so looking at this Kefla, I was actually reading through it. So the first auto actually is only half leader tied. So it says when it's played from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and bottom deck it. Um,
okay,
that's the half that's generic. So that's pretty good. Like you play it, you bottom deck something important potentially, or maybe you just get rid of a token. I don't know. The second half of it says then choose up to one of your blue Kale leaders, then place up to 2 cards at the top of your deck under it, which is how you ramp in that deck. Um, so pretty neat that that first auto is actually generic. I think compared to the other ones, this is probably the most generic promo out of all of them. Paragus is really tied in. Toa's half generic. No, Toa's fairly generic as well. So those two are the most generic ones, and obviously Gogeta's kind of just there for the Gogeta deck, and same for the Yamcha deck.
mm-hmm.
I Gogeta down the line looks like he has the potential to be generic, though. It's just he's not quite there.
Yeah, because I believe it's not tied to a Gogeta leader at all, is it?
No, it's not. The only downside is you just need to be running Green Goku and Vegeta cards, which deck are you going to be doing that outside of, for BR specifically?
Obviously, set to Babidi.
Stupid. Yeah, I don't know.
Broken.
But those are all the champ cards. I don't think there were any other cards they revealed that is further support for other leaders. Um,
No.
that's looking like all we have coming for the meta. So the new stuff, like I said, these promos, I don't know how much they're gonna shift their decks. Same with the old support they're giving. Same with the new decks coming out. I don't know how they're gonna perform in the meta. But I'm hoping that these champ cards really help out the old decks. Same with the legacy support, and I'm hoping that at least 3 leaders from the new set are meta. Because we always want new leaders in there, and if there's no leaders, like we had Android 21s out of set 20, and that was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it only
Android 18 for a
Majin
little
Vegeta,
bit.
Majin Vegeta. Um,
Yeah, that's a
Android
starter
18
deck
for
card.
a little bit.
it is a starter deck card, yeah. Yeah, those were the 3 main meta decks, or I guess, yeah, I'll say 3 because Spirit Bomb as well. I'll tie it in as just basically being a toned down Majin Vegeta.
Cumber was the other one.
Cumber, yes, yes. So we got a few
Cumber
out of there.
21.
Um, so I'm hoping
Vegeta,
that
yeah.
this set provides that same level. I mean, we expect Gohan, for sure, but that's only 1 deck out of 8. So hopefully a couple other leaders pop in. But that's all I have from my side. If you guys have anything you want to add in, feel free to add in.
No, I think that's about it. Just like you said, I hope that the new leaders do something because we don't want another set 15 in our hands where, let's be honest, none of those leaders showed up.
No.
And it was, in my opinion, one of the worst sets ever. So just hopefully it doesn't fall into that category and like something does decide to show up outside of Gohan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't have much else to offer.
All right, then I'll wrap up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I know it was a long podcast, but I hope you did enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.